What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. Monday, April 8th. We're a pretty busy weekend. We didn't have a show Friday. It was opening day. A lot of things went down. We're going to talk about it. We had a hell of a weekend, too, fellas. It was a great weekend. Saw Shane Gillis. We took a company trip. We saw Shane Gillis. Accomplished a lot of things. We're back. It feels good to be back, boys. How we doing tonight?
Feel great. That music, Jeff, I'm just going to throw this out there. I feel like I'm at a concert right now. There we go. I was blown away. Now I feel great. I don't know what's going on, dude. Right before we get on the show, everyone's like, "Oh, Booner's been drinking." But something's wrong with my body. I might need to go get checked out or something. Something generally is wrong with me. I'm just red here. I can't stop getting red. Feel great though. Besides that,
you'll get through it, Boone. You'll get through it. Hey, real quick, fellas, do I look and sound fine? Just so I know, real quick.
Yeah, you're good now,
brother. You always look good. You always look fine.
Shout out you. I'm feeling good though, boys. Happy. It feels like it's been like that minute since we last did a show, just because we missed Friday. We were obviously down at opening day, which was a good time with the fellas, but it feels like we've been gone for a minute. Happy to be back.
And shout out to the people we met. I was actually blown away by the amount of people who came up to us that watched the show and support us and that knew who we were. It was kind of a little like a surreal moment being downtown and in an event in Detroit, and so many people be like, crunch time. So it was pretty cool. It was sweet.
Yeah, well, before we get into it, Gentry is not here today. He's under the weather. It feels like complete garbage. So he'll be back probably tomorrow. We'll see how he feels.
Solar eclipse got that man.
Yeah. By the way, that was interesting too. Hey, I got the little glasses.
You had the glasses?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, I drove around all day looking for glasses. Didn't get glasses anywhere, dude. Like, I tried everywhere. I just looked at the sun. I just did it. I said,
"Don't do that." No, you're actually.
I already did.
Do that.
Instant headache too, by the way.
You know, if you do that, you get damage to your eyes.
I've got damage to a lot of things, brother.
Hell yeah, boo! That's what I'm talking about.
Nah, I did look up and I went outside. It got dark. It's unbelievable. I should have got the glasses though. You're right. Couldn't find them anywhere.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a gas station by my house that sold them. So I picked it up. I didn't even know that was a thing. They were selling them today. It was cool. I mean, it was cool. It supposedly happens every like decade or 2 decades or something like that. So I was like, I gotta go see it. Like I have to see this. So I went outside, checked it out. It was cool. But this weekend was a lot of fun. Friday we went downtown. Opening day, fellas. We got to see some great friends of ours. Went over to the Woodward Sports Tent, and it was cool to see a lot of those guys. We've just been so busy, and they've been busy that we haven't even really been able to like talk in person and interact and kind of catch up. And that was a lot of fun. So I know we met some people, Boone. You kind of alluded to it. A lot of fans down there, and that's always fun. Hanging out with the fans, getting some drinks, just chopping it up. Like,
a lot of
shout out if those people are tuning in or anybody was downtown that said hey to us. Much love, man. It was all good. It was good people, good company.
Do you know what I realized on Friday? I realized there's people. A lot of people look at me in different ways. I had a lot of people come up to me, not know who Booner is, but would just say, "Oh, the Kool-Aid guy, the Kool-Aid guy." I'd be standing in line and I'd go, "Oh, that's the Kool-Aid guy," and I just kept getting that, and then I would get, "Oh, Booner." It was like that when we went to Ford Field for the NFC Championship game. It was just, "You're the Kool-Aid guy." The Kool-Aid. So the Booner path and the Kool-Aid, 2 different things. It was fun though, seeing the fellas. I do miss some of the fellas, like just chopping it up with some of the boys and just going out doing stuff with them. So that was fun. You know who I love to see too? The heavyweights are always great. Flannel Sam.
Flannel's my favorite to see every time.
He is I love Speddy, Easy, Chris. I love all those boys. I probably missing some guys out, Lance and Noah and all them. But Flannel Sam, man, is just he's one of a kind. He's one of a kind, man. I love Flannel so much.
Yeah, we saw Flannel, Stick, the heavies. I mean, we saw everybody, man.
JB,
great
seeing everybody again.
KG, everyone.
Yeah. And it was great. I mean, you had the heavies dancing for 2 straight hours. Just
that was something.
They were getting down.
Box, dude, that was something. That was something.
That was a show to remember. But yeah, it was a blast. We had a lot of fun. And then we Saturday we said, you know what? go to Shane Gillis. You know, we drove over to Saginaw. It was Booner's area code.
My old town for about 5 years.
Yep, where you went to college at. Also share the same university as Matt LaFleur. We checked. Yeah, well, we checked that out. We saw Shane Gillis.
Deja Loaf.
Never saw a comedian live like that. It was my first comedian ever, and I'm so thankful with Shane Gillis. That dude is one of the funniest men on planet Earth. So, Booner, I know that's your guy. Yeah, it's crazy. He's
crazy, man.
Yeah, like boys, and we weren't able to because we were looking to the right. I wasn't able to check in with the fellas, but that I was laughing from the first joke to the last. Like he's a legend.
I kept leaning into Booner because Booner was to my left and Gentry was to my right, and there were just so many times where I just couldn't stop laughing. I was just like rolling into Booner. I felt like pause, but no, that was he was comedy, man. Like. Yeah, where it was just like you couldn't help but laugh. Like you could tell there's some people in front of us that like did not want to laugh. There's some females that like didn't find some jokes funny, but then towards the end, like they couldn't help but laugh. It's just like if you're going to a comedy show and you get offended by jokes, I don't know what to tell you. But that dude's so funny.
Dude, yeah, I mean, it inspired me when I left. Bill Burr's probably elite as well. The Boston guy, man. Dude, when we left, I told you guys, and by the way, too, can I just address this in the chat? I don't want to address the chat, but I'm not wearing makeup. I don't know what's going on with my face here. I'm coming off. I had the flu game last week. I had a couple shows where I had the flu game and I was sick up here. I didn't go to work, but I said, you know what? I'm going to get on this show for the people because the people deserve it. I took some medicine and I did it, and I'm still getting over it. My lips are like chapped from it. I keep blowing my nose. My nose is just absolutely red and rashed up. My cheeks are red. I don't know. I'm coming down from it. This is the hours that I put in. This is what happens, man. It takes
that eclipse got you, Boone.
It did, dude. I looked right in the sun and it said it. Try to get over this flu and
it's probably.
But I do want to say this though: the Shane Gillis thing inspires me. I want to get into comedy, so I would love to. I would love to do some stand up. I don't know if the people would like to see that, but that leaving there, I'm like, this is something I think I might be able to do. Shane Gillis is elite, but
he is. I mean, I don't know how those guys, any comedian, you could sit, especially on his level, where you're entertaining like 10,000 people live, and you have to, and we're all sitting there going, "Make me laugh," and he made me laugh the entire time. That's different. Like when you look at professional athletes, like not saying it, I'm not trying to compare like what's easier or whatever. It's just like for comedy, it's like hit or miss with a lot of people. Like playing sports is like, you do this, you do that, you do X, Y, Z, and then people can just choose to be entertained or not. Comedy is like, that is
tough, dude. There's times you hear stories all the time from like just big time comedians that say just like through their career, they would go to shows and they would just be terrible. No one would laugh. And it's like they had to go through that at some point in their career. It's not even like in sports, you can just be really good your whole life. Like LeBron, just everywhere you play, you're just good. Even the best of the best in comedy, they've probably had bad shows where no one laughs and they get booed off the stage. So like, it's a tough business, man. It's tough. But shout out to him. You could tell from his openers to Shane Gillis, like the talent gap. Like you think about that in sports, the talent gap in the comedy world of Shane Gillis and the guys that opened for him was so much like it was unbelievably, it was crazy. He was that much better. Every single joke.
What'd you think, Lucas? I didn't get
the football joke had me weak. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of like jokes that he said that like
this one
we can talk about on here that won't just get us canceled or anything like that.
You can't talk about this joke. But incredible. Joke.
Which one?
That one. You see that?
Oh, the passed out shit. That one was a good one. The football one. What are the ones that he have, fellas? I'm trying to think.
I was trying to think to tell people. It's just so hard to tell people because they're like the jokes are so long. They're like 10-minute jokes, so it's just hard to be like, this.
He took a shot at Toledo. Didn't like that. Gentry thought that shit was hilarious.
Took a shot at Michigan State. He did take a shot at Michigan State. He said, "I'll cheer for Michigan State because they never win anything, so I don't mind doing that." So he did take a shot at Michigan State.
Yeah, no, he is goated. Coach Walk 37 says, I wish I would have known you guys went to see Shane. I went with a bunch of buddies. I would have set your table at drink. What day were you there, Coach? We were there. Were you there Saturday? That would have been cool running into Coach. But we had a blast though. We did. Before we kind of get into sports and get into Chris Castellani at 8:30, we'll be talking to him. So shout out to him, by the way, for taking time out of his day to join the fellas.
For sure.
I do want to give some love here to a kind of a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show, Michael Lucci's, who's doing a great job with roarroundup.com, which I'll have the link in the description. And they just posted this. Again, you can check it out. It's great. It's a great website. Gives publicity to Lions content creators. It's a good hub for Lions fans just to go, or Detroit sports fans to kind of check out what's going on, what's in the kind of the latest news. Michael does a really good job, and he posted this channel spotlight on us. So, man, appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. He put even the poll in here. So I think that was just very humbling. So, yeah, shout out to Michael for that. I want to give him some love here. And make sure you guys go check out what he's doing with Roar Roundup. So, yeah, again, appreciate you, Michael. That was awesome. A lot of fun there. All right, let's get into it. I wanted to bring it up. Saw it happen over the weekend. It's your man's Boone.
Hot start. Hey?
What's going on at Devondre Sweat, my guy? I mean, I don't think he said driving while intoxicated, but I read somewhere it could be marijuana. I don't think it was necessarily alcohol, but regardless, driving while intoxicated, not a good thing. Boone, come on, you couldn't wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks before you get into the NFL. What's going on with your boy?
I guess there was something, and this is just what I've read, that there was issues with him like partying and kind of going out and doing things heading into the draft and through the combine and everything. He addressed that with teams and said, "Hey, that's in the past. I'm no longer doing stuff like that. I've kind of moved on." And then this comes up, and it's just. You don't want. Do you remember like Jalen Carter last year? Obviously, that stuff was very unfortunate. What happened with the racing and all of that, but it's just like things coming out draft month. It's April now. Like you don't want anything negative to come out, especially when you're a guy like him. Like he's like you're creeping up into the second round. You're moving your boards. You're moving up the board, and then you're gonna have something like this happen. It's just like you should probably avoid anything at all causes leading up to the draft. I don't know. Dan Campbell guy now. Probably not, right? Like that's my first initial thought is like this is just stuff that they don't want to deal with here in Detroit. Is just anything off the field, whether we don't have the full story of what it was or what's happening. And my first initial thought, it's just they don't we don't want to deal with that in Detroit, whatever it is. I don't know what's happened, but when you're in the news, it's a bad deal probably, and that's what it is. You don't want to be in headlines. You don't want to be doing that, especially the way they've built this team, not off superstars, but off guys with like very very high characters and things like that. So I don't know. I think it takes away a little bit from that Devondre Sweat to Detroit thing. So I've already been off of it a little bit the last couple of weeks just because DJ Reader come in and, just different scenarios that have gone down. So I'm kind of off of it already, but I think we can all agree it's probably not going to be a Detroit Lion, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, in Lucas, this to me, like, it's not even about what he did. I mean, because it's not good. Right, you can't drive while intoxicated. We've seen people getting pretty deep waters with that. I mean, even a guy like Henry Ruggs in very different situation. I get that, but still, just getting behind a wheel while you're intoxicated, dude, buy an Uber. Come on. I mean, with NIL, you got the money, so spend $40, get home. It's really not that complicated. It was a dumb decision. It was immature, definitely. It's just one of those things. It's kind of a bonehead. I mean, it is. It's a bonehead decision. About 2 weeks from the draft. Like it just doesn't, it's like, you come on, dude. Like that's self-awareness. Self-awareness is key. Clearly Devondre Sweat lacks that. So yeah, I mean, the whole Lion stuff, I didn't think they'd draft him, but even if there was a shot, hell no. He's not, to me, he'll still be drafted, obviously, but he went to me, he went from like a second, third round pick to like a third, fourth round pick. Like this, he'll probably drop like a round or two. No way he doesn't get drafted or anything like that, but he's
already meeting with teams this week as well. Like it's been released that like teams have reached out. He's flying, I think, to like, I can't even remember the teams, but there was like 3 or 4 teams who want to meet with him this week already. And he said he's going to clear things up and he's out on bail. And so like, he's going to get drafted. Maybe it still might end up being the 3rd round, but it's just, you don't want to have to put yourself in these scenarios. And it kind of shows like what's to come in the NFL. Are you going to be able to get this together, or are you going to is this a thing of the past? Because if you've already told us it's a thing of the past and it keeps happening, then that's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll probably drop a round or two as far as his draft wise, but I think Keaton said pretty much what I was going to say here. It's like, as far as him, the Lions, with the whole Cam Sutton thing going on, I guarantee they want no extra noise going into this season. So as far as Devondre Sweat to the Lions, I think it was low risk, like we already talked about with Booner saying with DJ Reader coming in here, and I know they want to see what they have with the Liam, and not to mention he's got some development to go with his weight regardless. So if you have to develop him as a character, there's no way that Brad invests time and money into that, in my opinion.
No, and we're sometimes, not, I don't want to say all the time, but sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. Like when certain players do this stuff. I mean, the example I have is Sam Williams, who I liked a lot coming out of college. Yeah. It was, I think it was Ole Miss. Yeah, he was a
rebel.
He was a rebel though, and
he's still solid. He's still kind
solid.
Yeah.
But you just have to like accept off the field antics. Like you just have to accept he's going to get into trouble, and that's just something that again it hurts because a guy like Sam, who's very talented, or for a guy like Devondre, not saying he's done the things Sam has done, but this is just leave it here. You know, you messed up, cool, immature, move on, grow up, and he'll have a good NFL career.
Anything in the NFL draft can hurt your stock, like anything little. And just to have something like this pop up, it's just not a good.
Dude, they call like high school coaches, they call teachers, they call like
they're looking to invest millions into you, like millions and millions in their future, expecting you to help them out, go win a Super Bowl, and that $1 million investment to be worth something. They're not going to do that if there's any slip ups or there's small things. So it's just the month of April, like this. Dude, you should have been in the draft process. Probably, I don't know. Like if I'm going into the draft, like we go on the weekends and have fun, but guess what? I don't have an NFL draft to prepare for. Like I don't have workouts to look forward to this week. I don't have to go make $10 million next year to go play football. If I had to do that, I probably would do something different and not drink and do this and do that. It's like you can have fun, but be smart at the end of the day.
I know who I would invest millions to.
I already know who this is going to be. I see point. Yep, there it is.
There we go, baby. I love that. I love that. I'm not going to lie.
PFF put this out. Potential secondary. Got Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, 2 corners, safety Brian Branch, safety Iffy Melifonwu, safety Kirby Joseph. And this is assuming that the Detroit Lions select Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's kind of thrown in that secondary.
Jeff's bulge would be thriving that day.
Can I ask a question before we get going on this topic real quick?
What's up, Boone?
I want to. This is to you, Lucas. What's this like? And I know you don't hate Kool-Aid McKinstry. It feels like anytime we talk about him, though, you're like, oh man, here we go. Like, what's like the negative? Because to me, it's like you watch his film at 29. If you want a corner that's going to have some like help your secondary, and like if you get any corner outside of those top 3 guys that has a chance to be a starter right away in the NFL and actually help you and develop into something good, I would think it's Kool-Aid McKinstry coming from a pro program in Alabama, being alongside the best in the draft, Terrion Arnold. Like, I don't see the downfall in bringing him in on this team if he's available at 29.
And that's a very fair point.
Die here, by the way.
That's a very fair point that I do not hate, but I've talked about it many times. I think even if you go look at not even at pick 29, but look at how many good corners, how many in the first round, how many have there been? There's been 3 or more good corners taken in the first round. Very few. You go to the corners taken at 29 or even past 25 in the first round. How many have turned out to be elite? Very few. So when you're talking about the corner at 29, yes, I believe that Kool-Aid's right outside of that top 3, but I don't think that means you have to take him at 29. I think if you're going to take him in that 29 area, it's basically a second-round pick. And I think there's corners that are very similar tier, the Max Melton, TJ Tampa's. Kool-Aid is better than them, but I'm not anti-Kool-Aid. One of it is to troll Jeff because that's Jeff's favorite player. It's like his Xavier Legette, so that's hand-in-hand with it. But I'm just very anti-corner at 29. If they do it, I'm not going to hate it because I think Kool-Aid's a solid player. But I think if you're going to spend a first-round pick, you want that player to be like a wide receiver 1, a defensive end 1, and a linebacker 1, a safety 1. In my opinion, I don't think Kool-Aid has a cornerback 1 upside. I think that's why you take him or a player around his same caliber in round 2, and I think they can still translate just fine. But I think it's not a dramatic reach, but it's a little bit of a reach compared to some players that could be available.
Very, very well said.
That's you know what's funny? That's what it always is with me and Lucas. Like I'll be like, oh, why do you? Oh yeah, what's up? And then he'll explain. I'll be like, fair.
Because the thing is with me, it's if he does get taken, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh man, we got Kool-Aid.
He should be taking over Nate Wiggins.
Yeah,
tell you that
if you're
much.
If you're gonna go corner, I'm happy with that pick. I'm fine with that, to be honest.
Yeah, like I'm not. I'll probably crack a little smile. I'll be happy for Jeff. I'll be mad that it wasn't Leggett. But at the end of the day, I think the Lions. I think he can, in at least in a year or two, maybe even his rookie year, can be close to what Cam Sutton was. I'm not doubting that. And at the end of the day, that's who they just lost. So you're filling a position of need on a lower contract, and he's younger, so would it by default be an upgrade?
Hopefully, we're talking Steelers, Cam Sutton.
Yes. Who else would we be talking about? Yeah. He was stuck in a bad situation, though.
But I'm with you. Like, if they don't take a corner at 29, the more we've been doing, like, the more draft discussions we've had, there are some corners in round 2 and 3 that are nice. That are nice. So it's not about, like, Kool-Aid or bust, or, if they don't take Kool-Aid, I'm upset. Because, like, you put me on to TJ Tampa. I like TJ Tampa. He'll be a second-round pick. So there's an option there. And there are a lot of corners that are second-round picks. I mean, the first one that comes to mind, Jalen Johnson, was a second-round pick. So, I don't hate the idea if you're like, nah, I'm not. I'd rather have an offensive lineman, which we'll get to later, by the way, because the odds are out for who could be at 29, and it's an offensive lineman. And I'll wait. We'll wait till then to talk about it. But yeah, if it's a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, Darius Robinson or Zach Frazier, whoever,
I don't even hate. Like, to me, and to Lucas's point, not even the second round corners. If you end up missing out on Kool-Aid McKinstry and going edge or making those moves, doing that, like, there's guys in the third round at that corner position that you can go out there. It does feel like there are some corners in here that. I'm at the point to where, I would love to add a Stephon Gilmore and then just get a corner if you need to a little later on and develop him. Let him develop like Carlton Davis if he brings Stephon Gilmore in. Amik Robertson, like, let a guy develop to where when Amik leaves or if Carlton Davis, you don't re-sign him after next year. Here we go. You have your guy to fill in. So I'm with that. I don't want to mind Chris Abrams-Drain. That's a guy we've talked about. Like, there are guys in this draft that you could say, yep, I'll take him. Let him develop. Maybe he can give us something this year at some point, like the Brian Branch last year. Get a guy in the second round, and he ends up being better than he thought. I don't know how much we haven't really seen Brad draft a corner, have we?
Not like a true corner. If he technically was coming out of Syracuse and then Chase Lucas, but if you're really going to count Chase Lucas as a corner, it's interesting. 6th, 7th round pick.
Well, it's interesting because we talked about the RAS score kind of thing last week, which I don't think many channels, if any, are talking about, which I think is an interesting point about how Brad does value RAS score on certain positions more than others, specifically linebacker and defensive line. But corner, he hasn't really taken. I mean, if he was converted to safety and then you drafted Chase Lucas like late, so we haven't seen him take a corner early.
Yeah.
But the thought that he would have taken Devon Witherspoon if he was there, I looked up Devon Witherspoon's RAS score, and it wasn't like off the charts. So I think with DBs, he values more intangibles, IQ, where to be, when to be there kind of thing, and athleticism is a plus. But like Brian Branch, for example, like his RAS score wasn't good, but look at him, he's a damn good player. So
I think a combination of just IQ and athleticism. That's obviously the ideal thing for him, especially like an edge, a linebacker. Like we were talking about that last week, like an edge or a linebacker. You would think it's the same thing for a corner as well.
Yeah, I mean the Kool-Aid. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry, he had like a 7.5 RAS score, which isn't like blowing anyone. It's not like off the charts. It's like good, but like that's why I was texting with Adam, and he's like, "Oh, he's not looking at Kool-Aid." I'm like, "Well, he almost took Witherspoon, and he doesn't have like a." Actually, let me check just real quick because now I'm curious. His RAS score wasn't like off the charts. Let me see. Because they posted this last year and he was kind of already injured. Oh, no, he didn't even qualify, because he was injured. But when he did, he didn't even qualify because he was injured. So like Brad would have taken a guy that, again, he was a little banged up. But Devon, Devon in college, we saw the tape. So that's why I like Kool-Aid. But you got me, you know who got me on, dude? We were talking about it before the show, Renardo Green.
Yeah.
That's been your guy for a while.
Hippie fucker.
Yeah, he is. But here's the thing, though. Since he's not projected to go in the first round, you like him. All right.
Yeah.
He's a little skinnier, but you can work with him.
Okay. He's a 3rd round guy.
Yeah, and that's fair.
He's in that Nate Wiggins tier, except he's bigger than Nate Wiggins.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll get into the mock drafts later too, about 9 o'clock or 9:15. So I can't wait for that because I did mine today. You could check it out.
I made a different move than I usually do every week. I've switched it up a little, and you know what too? I want to make this pretty well known as well. Is I did one earlier today and I loved it. Like everything fell into my play, like to my lap, exactly what I wanted. And instead of saving the draft, I clicked refresh, and I lost the draft.
Oh no!
So I've been working all day to try and get the same exact draft that I did earlier, and nothing's fallen my way. It must have been like just a one. You'll see what happened, and you'll probably understand why everything didn't go my way because it was like perfect what has happened to me.
Well, you know what, fellas? It's almost 8:30. And in about a minute or two here, we're gonna be joined by Chris, and I'm very excited here. We'll get his thoughts. I know he has his own show, Chris and Company, which you guys can check out. The link will be in the description. Can't wait to get his thoughts on the Tigers. I mean, opening day was electric, absolutely electric. Yeah. I mean, downtown was booming. I mean, the game was on while we were at Detroit Opera House at the tent, and I can't imagine. I knew some buddies that went to the game. We got to make it out to one very soon. And honestly, March Madness, the tournament's almost wrapping up. And the winner of our tournament bracket will be of our bracket, which I don't know what place I'm in now. We'll know tonight. They're going to get some Tigers tickets.
4 of them suckers.
All I'm saying. Get a little 4-piece.
For sure.
So that'll be a lot of fun. But you mentioned before the show too, Boone, before we get started here, Red Wings got some big games over the next couple of days, which I don't have Mike to break it down, but I'm going to be watching. I'm locked in tomorrow.
They put themselves in a position to where they basically you win games and you're in. That's essentially what it is. You have that. They have the last wild card spot right now, and then I believe the 2 other teams right now they're fighting with is the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals. And guess who they play this week? Tomorrow night they have Washington at home, and then they play Pittsburgh on Thursday. So if you win those 2 games, you should have a pretty good shot. I think the Islanders are in the mix as well still, but if you win those 2 games, you kind of put yourself in a position, get in the playoffs, baby. Have we seen LCA a playoff game at LCA? Not hockey. We might have seen that Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond little duo.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I've seen
get swept in the.
That was the worst. Round. That was the worst playoff series of all time in Detroit.
It was Bron. Then you had Giannis coming up at that time too. Like after that, it was like, all right, that window closed pretty quickly. There was no window. It was like a little breeze coming in. They shut it. Like it wasn't like it wasn't.
They tried to reopen it after Greg Monroe and Drummond. They tried to reopen it with Griffin. Greg Monroe was a dog, though. Greg Monroe.
They tried to get him to play the 4. They tried to get him to play the 4. All right,
the Moose, baby.
That was awful. What an era for Pistons basketball. Oh, I mean, the era we're still in. I mean, I don't know what we're doing here.
I don't know why we're talking about it on the show right now until they fire.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Make some moves.
That's the thing too. Like I see comments. People are like, "Why don't you talk about all Detroit sports?" Well, trust me, you don't want to hear about the Pistons. And the Tigers and Red Wings, they've earned it. The Red Wings kind of been losing. They're coming back. They're clawing for a wild card spot. Like we will not. And I love the Pistons, but you don't hear us talk about the Pistons for a reason. Like the ratings don't lie. And if we're talking Pistons, that viewership is taking a shit. That's just it is. Hey, I'm not lying. It's what happens. But yeah, it's 8:31. I want to bring Chris. I think Chris is all good. Chris, you ready? Just seeing if he's all. I know he's figuring some things out here.
He just texted me and said he can't hear us in backstage right now. So I don't know if that changes when he comes up and we bring him on. I'm not 100% sure.
He should be able to.
Okay, I'm gonna add him. Make sure everything's all good here, but I don't want to throw him off either.
I don't know if you can hear us.
Yeah, I don't. Right.
Chris?
Hey, I just fixed the audio issue, so you guys.
At the buzzer.
Yeah,
that was shot out a text right at the buzzer. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. That was on my end. I switched the speaker to what my microphone is, and my microphone to what my speaker is. So
there we go. There we go.
Let's fair. What up, Chris? Dude,
what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Dude, no problem. We're very excited to have you. We appreciate you. I know you've been busy. The Tigers, they're in the middle of a game right now. and you're choosing to join the fellas. So appreciate that. I do. Before we start, you guys know who Chris is, obviously host of his own show, Chris and Company, which you can check out. Link will be in the description. And Chris, I need your thoughts. Listen, game on now. Yeah. Tigers, they lost the last 2 straight. What's been going on? They're 6-3. We were at opening day. It was a lot of fun. I need your, through 9 games, kind of reaction to what's been going on. Everything's been on your Twitter, but just kind of give me your positives, your negatives, what's been going on with you.
Well, first off, I love how you're acting like me being on the show is some sacrifice. We're losing 7-2 to the Pirates in the middle of April. This is probably a much better option at this point than having to endure, Reese Olson giving up line drive after line drive. No, look, honestly, and I'll talk about it in my video tonight. I think through 9, almost 10 games here, what I think this team is, they are not as good as how they played in the first 7 games of the season, and they are not as bad as how they've played over the last 3. It is somewhere in between. Ultimately, I think the story that will define this team throughout the season, because there's going to be variance. I don't see the bullpen being this dominant all season, though I do think they're going to be quite good. And I don't see the offense being this terrible, though I do think they're going to have their struggles. But ultimately, the story of this team will be they will not win games in which they don't pitch well. In every game that they've won this year, even if there's been a start or two where maybe Maeda or Mize didn't pitch great, the bullpen has always come in and bailed them out. What we saw in those last 2 games against Oakland, well, yeah, the offense completely fell apart. 1 run over 18 innings in those last 2 games. That's completely unacceptable. They gave up 4 and 6. They were down 5-0 early in that second game to Oakland. That'll ultimately be the story of this team. When the pitching holds strong, which I have faith it will do pretty consistently, because I think not only is there talent here, but I think there's depth here. They're going to win some games. But in games when that doesn't happen, this is not an offense that's built to play from behind unless we see a breakout season from one of these young players. And right now, we're not really seeing anything that indicates that that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Chris, do you think as well, just kind of looking at this, even with the Guardians, they're like 8-2 right now as well, kind of to a hot start. Is this kind of just a division between the Guardians and Tigers right now? Do you think they can win it still, kind of from what you've seen to start?
I think the Twins will play better at some point here in the future. Cleveland was the team, when I did my 30 teams in 30 days ranking, Cleveland was one team I felt like I put way too low, because Cleveland consistently, you look at their roster and you're kind of unimpressed, but they always have pitching, and they always find a way to develop pitching. Now, Cleveland suffered a huge loss with Shane Bieber out for the season with elbow surgery. I mean, that's devastating for them. I would consider it a 3-team race. I know that there are some people who buy into the Royals, getting off to an above 500 start. I think their lineup got better. I think their starting pitching is okay, but they did nothing to fix what was a terrible bullpen a year ago. I think ultimately in the second half of the season, that's going to lose them a lot of games. The White Sox are unspeakably bad. So I think, look, it'll be a marathon. I think the Twins, the one advantage that the Twins have is they've been through this grind before. In the first half last season, they were roughly above 500 for a majority of it, played a lot better in the second half, ended up winning the division comfortably and making it to the ALDS. So I would not count them out, but I think just to start the season, it's hard not to be impressed with what Cleveland has done, especially with a first-year manager. They always have their system. They're going to put the ball in play. They're going to make you work. Might not hit for a ton of power outside of Jose Ramirez, but they're going to be a scrappy team. They consistently are. So I think they'll be in this race probably until the end.
All right, Chris. I appreciate you coming on the show. It was very nice meeting you. Very appreciative of it.
Of course,
but I'm not the biggest Tigers fan. I'm kind of dipping my toes in the water right now. Okay, so I'm trying to get exposed. Hey, I'm from Toledo. Been to a lot of Mud Hens games, but I'm trying to get more acclimated to it. And I obviously know like the Torques and the Riley Greens. But as a fan like me and people that are trying to get into the sport, specifically with this season, do you think there's some Tigers players that you think are going to kind of jump out and take a big step this year that maybe didn't previously?
Yeah, well, one player I think everyone should keep an eye on, and I'll just go with the offense, because I think it would be so easy for me to default to Skubal. Well, Skubal's like a Cy Young favorite. Like, that's an easy one to go to. From what I've seen thus far this season, I think one guy who's put together some really good at-bats and maybe hasn't gotten the results and has had some bad luck is Colt Keith. He was a rookie who was drafted, I think, in the 5th round of the COVID year draft, ascended through the system pretty quickly. They've really liked him. He started the year as this team's opening day second baseman as a rookie. Not an easy thing to do. Has hit for power at points, a little bit of extra base pop. I believe has a single in the game that we're watching tonight. I think that his ceiling outside of Torque and Green is probably as high as anyone on the team. I mean, he had a wonderful year across multiple leagues in the minor leagues a season ago, and has also rather surprisingly played some really good defense. I mean, I think in general, those are the guys that we get attached to. We love the free agent signings and we love the trades, but we love the guys that come up through the system, the Justin Verlanders of the world, these guys that we feel like we kind of knew from the very beginning. Colt Keith is one of those guys, and he's a young player. He's not somebody who's going to be kind of a stopgap 1 or 2 year option here. They signed him to a contract extension before he played a major league game. They're going to be paying him until he's about 30 years old to stay in Detroit and play ball games at Comerica Park. So I think that that's a guy who I could see being somebody who by the end of the year isn't hitting 5th or 6th, but is rather hitting really in the heart of that lineup in the 3 or 4 spot.
Hey, Chris, what's real quick, Jeff? I don't know. What's going on with Torque, man? Because like last year, can you break that down just for us a little bit? Last year, he was unbelievable to end the year.
He fucking stinks. What's going
on?
Let
me just say real quick. Everybody thinks, not you guys, everybody thinks I don't like Spencer Torkelson or I have some beef against him or something. Absolutely not. Here's the thing. When you get a player who's drafted 1-1, okay, you are going to hold said player to a higher standard than I'll hold some random schmuck who we called up from AAA. That's just the way things are. It's like
100%.
Like when you guys watch the Lions, you're going to judge Jared Goff much differently than the second string punter. That's just the way things are here. That one guy's getting paid the money. And so the issue I have with Torque is I think he has a higher ceiling than almost anybody on the team. I think that he is as inconsistent as any player we've seen here in a long time. This is we're 10 games in, so I'm not going to bury anybody. But the one thing I've said about him that's different than somebody like Riley Green is that Riley Green is an outfielder. There will always be a place for 10, 15 years, assuming health, on a major league roster for somebody like Riley Green. Even if he doesn't become a star, he'll be a serviceable left fielder. He's going to get on base. He can hit for power. There's a lot of things that he does. When we're talking about Spencer Torkelson, nobody drafted Spencer Torkelson for his defense. Nobody drafted Spencer Torkelson for his athleticism. Nobody drafted him under the belief that he was going to be Mike Trout and put up 10 wins above replacement per season. You drafted him for one reason, because this guy is going to hit the crap out of the baseball. And that means putting up an OPS that is 850 to 950 consistently year in and year out. Last year, he took a step forward. And for his second season, I viewed that as a success. But I'm going to hold him to a higher standard this year because first base is a position where you need power. You need guys who are getting on base. You need 35 plus home runs a year. You need an 800 plus OPS. If he's not doing that, then I'm not going to sit here and, kind of pat him on the back for taking steps forward following what was in a disastrous rookie season. So look, I want to like the guy, but the sample size is growing. I understood the criticism some people had towards my way of you've given up on him too early. I never gave up on him. I was just critical of him. But right now we're talking about a guy who is 2+ years into his major league career. And after being drafted 1-1, currently has a negative wins above replacement. Like, to put that into perspective, Javi Baez, who I rip, has given the Tigers more value analytically than what Spencer Torkelson has given them. And they arrived in Detroit at the same time. So part of my frustration is I have to throw my arms up and say, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's kind of up to him. I feel like the ability is there. Everyone raved about him when he was drafted out of ASU. Everyone raved about him coming up through the system. We could talk about hitting coaches or the consistency of the offense or player development all we want, but this is one of these things. He's going to have to find it on his own. And through 10 games, which is, again, very small sample size, it's been disappointing. I've reached a point now where for the longest time I said, he'll figure it out. I don't know anymore. I hope he does. I want him to. I think he has the mental makeup to, but I just can't decide what he wants to be. And it seems like he can't decide what he wants to be. So we're kind of just holding our breath at this point.
I think that's all fair points.
Yeah. I mean, and I think Chris put it well there. Chris, I want to ask you. I mean, AJ Hinch splash hired Chris Fetter, and he was in his own backyard as well. And I know Broder, who we're friends with as well, has some connections there with Chris Fetter at Michigan. What has he kind of meant to this ball club here? I mean, this is, if I'm not wrong, it's his first job in the MLB, correct? Yeah. He came from a stud. Talk to me about it.
I liked him for just a backstory. He was the pitching coach at Michigan when they made it to the College World Series Finals in 2019. And I don't follow college baseball super closely, but I know that you need to absolutely know what you are doing front to back on a day-to-day basis to make it that far into Omaha at Michigan. I mean, that just doesn't happen. That was the farthest they'd made it since 1984. So when the Tigers brought him in, I think what it is he's brought in a new age philosophy in terms of analytics, video stuff, spin rates, all the fun stuff that pitchers are paying attention to nowadays. But in the interactions that I've had with him and in the interactions that I've had with the guys who he's been coached by, I think much like AJ Hinch, he's a very good communicator, and he understands that there's not a one size fits all approach to how you develop players. I think that sometimes organizations fall into that issue where they think, well, it worked for this guy, therefore that same system has to work for another guy. That's not true. How you develop a Tarek Skubal is much different than how you might develop a Tyler Holton. And I think the understanding of that is what makes Fetter really special. And I also think part of it is the way that AJ manages his bullpen and the ideals that he's instilled in these guys that, look, I could call on you to pitch at any point. I think that's exciting for them. I think that there's kind of a closer by committee thing that they have there that they really like. And I think when you have a deep bullpen, which I believe this will be, that can only go 1-2 innings at a time, I think a really good pitching coach does a great job of masking whatever flaws they might have, instilling confidence in these guys, and just having them consistently throw strikes. I mean, it sounds weird to put it this way because it's so simple, but the number one thing you can do is just get ahead in counts, throw strikes. At that point, it opens up the option for you to miss bats, for you to throw pitches out of the zone that guys are going to chase at. I think they've had a very specific philosophy, but it's not necessarily a philosophy that has been a one-size-fits-all approach. And I think that's why you've seen power pitchers, sinker ballers, soft tossers, all kind of succeed coming out of this pen, is because they have a different philosophy for each person.
And Chris, I know, real quick, I know on your pod too, Chris and company, you've been doing great with guests. I mean, you had Kirby Joseph on there. People can go check that interview out. You had Graham, which Graham's been, he's been streaming, and that's been a great thing to watch as well.
That's been something.
Yeah, he's definitely letting it loose there. But I want to ask you, Chris, just based on this kind of Lions offseason, obviously we talk a lot of Lions. Just the free agency period, what has it meant to you? I know there's been a portion of people that were disappointed with the fact that the Lions, specifically Brad Holmes, didn't go out and spend a lot of money. And then there's a section of fans, which I think we all kind of align with, which is, hey, they got their guys. They still upgraded, whether you like it or not. Where are you with kind of the free agency period as we head into the draft?
That's a good question. I am with the Lions right now in a place where I never thought I'd be, and a place that I haven't been with any Detroit team in a long time, which is I have full faith in the guy in charge. And so I'm going to trust his decision-making regardless of who they bring in. I think the fan base, because of how bad the Lions were for so long, is still kind of scarred by this idea that in the offseason, they need to add a lot. They don't need to add a lot. They were one possession away from the Super Bowl a year ago. So it's like, I think that they believe in the pieces they have right now. And ultimately, I think that the sign of a really good GM and a guy who knows what he's doing is not a guy who can just, draft the number one pick and have him develop. A lot of guys can would fall into a position like that. But I think back to last year's draft and the way that people ripped those first two picks. They didn't like the Laporta pick. They didn't like the Gibbs pick. Can you imagine where that team would have been without those guys on the roster last year? So to me, I think that him and Dan Campbell have such a good communication and back and forth with each other where they're aware of the players that Brad Holmes wants to bring into this organization, but they're also aware of the players that will work best under Dan Campbell's system. So like I'm going hands off and just saying, I understand maybe some frustration. People want the big spend, the big free agent signing that's going to blow everybody away. But this isn't baseball. In general, we maybe get one or two free agent signings every offseason cycle where we go, wow, that's a huge difference maker.
Right.
For the most part, it's about extending the guys you have, keeping guys you have, because there is a salary cap. It's not like baseball. You can just spend as much as you want. So I have, until proven otherwise, I have full faith in Brad Holmes because this is already a year ahead of schedule for me. The fact that in year 3 under this rebuild, the rebuild's done. I mean, they've built this thing to a legit contender. Until proven otherwise, I'm going to put my faith in whatever decisions Holmes is making because he's made very few mistakes thus far.
You're speaking my language over here, Chris. That's
exactly man.
What I try preach.
Yeah, and it's exciting, man. The last time, really, to compare it to the Tigers, the last time I had a vibe like this with a GM in this city was Dombrowski. Dombrowski near the end made his mistakes, but for like a solid 10 years there, it was so much fun when you're like, oh shit, dude, we got Prince Fielder. Oh good, we traded for Miguel Cabrera. It's like, and a lot of those guys worked out. I'm getting that kind of vibe from Brad Holmes where it's like, I think that his eye test is as good as any eye test in football right now. So I'm putting my faith in him.
Do you think as well, I guess I might kind of know the answer to this question then, the Jared Goff situation. We've had this conversation on our show a lot, and I think a lot of Lions fans, they think it's an interesting thing because of the whole extension thing this offseason, and no one's seen it yet. Hendon Hooker getting drafted. Are you in on Jared Goff? And like I'll say it here, I'm all in on him, and I'm fine with the extension with him because I just want to win a Super Bowl, and it feels like you said, you're 10 minutes away from going to a Super Bowl with him already. Are you in on this whole Jared Goff thing? Or are you on like, hey, let's wait, let's see, let's maybe try and get a new franchise guy in? Where are you at with that?
No, what's that price point look like, Chris? What's that price point to you?
The price point, I don't know. The numbers side of things when it comes to NFL contracts, I'm not completely sure and I also know at some point here soon, I think Mahomes is going to get that massive extension. It's going to reshape the market, so I can't really put an exact number on it. But yes, I am in on Jared Goff. I've come to really like Jared Goff, and the thing is, we talk about quarterbacks in the NFL, and in general, I would say, with the exception of Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and maybe one other here or there, it is every bit as much about the system as it is the player. Like I love Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady's the GOAT, right? I don't think Tom Brady would have had 7 Super Bowl rings if he was drafted by the Bengals. There is a level of luck that comes with this stuff. I like Jared Goff. Now you saw in that we'd say first year, but really the first half year that Goff was in Detroit, he didn't look great. He was timid in the pocket. He was checking down on pass plays. But what ultimately happened is they surrounded him with weapons that turned him back into the quarterback that we saw take a team to a Super Bowl in 2018. And I think that's really the key thing that Brad Holmes has done here is one, and this is the big one. They've given him an offensive line. They keep the guy upright. He doesn't get hit. I mean, Stafford, God bless him, took a beating when he was here. We've seen the opposite of that with Goff. And you give him St. Brown, and you give him some of these younger receivers, and you give him Laporta and Gibbs in this good running game. I absolutely believe that Jared Goff is in a system where he can be a Super Bowl quarterback. And if that's the case, I'm telling you, having seen this in other organizations, having seen it with the Lions, there's always the belief that the next Mahomes is right around the corner. Man, that's not always the case. Sometimes you move on from your previous quarterback and you end up with a guy who is a massive step backward, who might have a higher ceiling, but is going to have a much, much lower floor. I kind of feel that way with Goff. He's not super turnover prone. He's been very efficient, and they've given him a system that allows him to succeed. So to me, you got to make him the quarterback long-term right now.
Grass isn't always greener.
Exactly. 100%.
On the other side.
Yeah, Chris, you just got done talking about how you trust Brad Holmes, how you love Brad Holmes, and I think we all should. There's no reason that we shouldn't. But in watching him develop this team, has there been a player so far that you've enjoyed watching the most through their development, or do you think there's a player that you're really excited to watch next year that takes that next step? Kind of the same question I asked you with the Tigers earlier. Yeah,
well, I as a Michigan fan, Hutchinson falling to us at 2 is he's my favorite Michigan player of all time. I do think in the draft, one of the key things they need to do is just add a second pass rusher so that Hutch can avoid those consistent double teams that he was getting throughout the season. Because you saw the way he went nuts those last 3-4 weeks of the season going into the playoffs. I mean, he was a monster. So I think he's going to develop. But in terms of these young guys, I mean, I love Laporta. Laporta was so much fun last year. I mean, that is my dude. And I really think Brad Holmes, it was noticed half the league is made up of tight ends from Iowa at this point. And the fact that they consistently keep falling in the draft because that Iowa offensive scheme is so terrible that they're overlooked. Sam Laporta in 4 years at Iowa scored 5 touchdowns. And he had 5 touchdowns by the 7th game this year. It's you have an elite talent that probably got overlooked because of the scheme. And maybe improvements need to be made in terms of the blocking situation, but as a pass catching tight end, we live in this golden age now. I'd say probably Tony Gonzalez started this of just this golden age of tight ends in football, going all the way through Antonio Gates and then Gronk and Travis Kelce. He is every bit a part of that, where he can not only be a great pass blocker for you, an intelligent football player, he can be one of your best receivers. So that's one of my favorite Lions or just Detroit draft picks in a long time. He is such a weapon for me.
Chris, before Chris spit with Laporta. I mean,
I love Laporta. Well, I got to get him on Chris and Company, man. So I love
you did that, Chris. Oh, you're breaking the algorithm in Detroit for a little bit.
We've broken ground with the Lions. We've had good luck with the Lions. So the next one we got to work our way up. Hopefully we can get Laporta soon.
Yeah, Chris, before we get you out of here, I do want to ask you, man, because again, with you in your content bag, I mean, you're crushing, number one. Obviously, we watch all your stuff, everything. I mean, now you're doing interviews with Lions players. You're back to your old bag here with the Tigers content. Yeah. You look a lot happier, man. Can you talk to the people just about what you've been up to? You're a free agent. You're crushing. How's it been?
You know, it's so funny, man. I'm not a guy who can hide emotions very well. So it was interesting to me how the first video I made after Barstool, people were like, wow, you already look better. And the thing is, that's not meant to be any knock toward the company I work for. I have a lot of love for Barstool and the people there, but to get closure in a situation was so helpful. And it's look, you have an opportunity here as a free agent to go back to doing, your bread and butter. And I liked blogging, but right now I don't have to blog. It's, what got you here? What got you here is the Tiger videos. It's the positive energy. It's being entertaining with these post-game videos. And now, I shout out to my guy, Austin, who's just been done an unbelievable job on the production side of things. We have a really funny vlog coming out tomorrow, recapping opening day at Comerica. So there's a creative freedom that I feel again. And ultimately look, man, especially at a place like Barstool, and this was to be expected. I knew this going back to college when I was following them. You're going to get backlash. You always do. There's going to be that toxicity. But what I've learned over these last several weeks, especially getting out to the ballpark and interacting with you guys, it's like, man, Detroit fans and Michigan-based fans, you guys have had my back from day one. And what you realize is the support is always going to be more overwhelming than the criticism. So like the freedom that I feel right now, and look, in a few months, if I'm still in this position, I might feel differently. But right now, like, I'm watching my stuff and like, I see a different entity, and I think that's great. And I think it was a perfect kind of moment for Barstool to move on from me and for me to move on from Barstool. And I'm excited for the next opportunity. But for the time being, look, if you're ever going to be without a job, the perfect time to do it is when you're going into baseball season. And I had booked the Hinch interview already. So I kept that secret, being like, your first piece of content in like your new, your new chapter is like, that's your fastball, man. You got AJ Hinch.
Big one.
No, I was worried. He'd be like, oh, you don't work for Barstool anymore? Well, fuck you. I'll see you later. No, AJ was, thankfully, he was super cool. He was so cool, man. So that was great. No, I'm when you get out of that bubble and get out of that cloud, you see just the overwhelming support, and like Tiger fans, Lions fans, Michigan people, you guys always consistently have my back. So I'm happy to be doing a show like this and just getting out and seeing the people again. It's been a lot of fun, man. Really.
Kills
it too, man.
You got our support, Chris. We relate to you, not quite on the same level, but to some extent with being a part of an organization or a prior workplace and doing something on your own. Like to see you, it inspires us. So it gets us fired up, man. So keep crushing. Before you go, we got 2 questions here from the chat. We want to throw up for you. Okay. First one, All Day Detroit Sports asks, what does Chris think about Chris Ilitch spending versus not spending? Oh, here Chris can cook.
A big one.
Well, I mean, I'd prefer to spend. to answer your question. No, the real talk, though, honestly, I think the idea of us ever spending the way that we spent when Mike Ilitch was the GM is not realistic. And I understand, in a way, I'm okay with that, because by the end, and we love Dombrowski, but by the end, you got some pretty bloated deals. The Miggy contract was bloated. The Jordan Zimmerman signing was a disaster. So I'm okay with some, change in direction. What I'm not okay with is seeing an opportunity to put your team in position with a signing here or there that could potentially make you a team that's winning the division, that could win the pennant, that can make a deep run, and ignoring it. Like for instance, this year, JD Martinez is right there on the table for $12 million a year. And, you just kind of, you let him go to the Mets. I understand that the days of us being a team that is the biggest spender in baseball or one of the top 3 is not realistic. But I mean, you guys got to understand right now, they are in the bottom third of payroll. Like they are in that. The Royals have a higher payroll right now than the Tigers do at this point. This is the big problem I have with Chris Ilitch, is he's gotten people to believe that Detroit is a small market. It's not. I've been here during times in which they spent on Prince Fielder and Miggy and Verlander. This is the idea of small market versus big market. Unless you're Oakland, is not a thing. Every one of these owners is a billionaire. The market is as big as you make it out to be. So I want spending, I do, but I also want responsible spending. I hope that as Chris Ilitch shows more trust in Scott Harris, which it seems like he's doing, because we've already seen upgrades to the ballpark, upgrades to the facilities, upgrades to player development system, stuff like that. My hope is that the next step, that he shows more faith in how he's going to spend the money, and that will allow them to put together a team that's in that upper half in terms of payroll, that adds some players that can really contribute and help them win.
The final question here comes from Bon J. Mailbag. Are you mad the Tigers didn't draft Langford last year?
Okay, everyone's asking me that, and the thing is, this is a weird thing where in the moment, as somebody who had just gotten back from Omaha for the College World Series, and as somebody who expected them to draft Wyatt Langford, in the moment I said, I wish they would have drafted Langford. But this is one of those things where the fans reacted so harshly to the pick, where I kind of had to step in and be like, okay, look, would I have drafted Langford? Yes. But if Max Clark didn't go 3, he would have gone 4. He's one of the most decorated high school players, of a generation. So right now, yes, because I wish the offense was doing more, and I think Langford could help that. But, one thing that Chris Brown, shout out to him and Regalia do such a great job that he pointed out, when Wyatt Langford was Max Clark's age, he was, sitting on the dugout in Florida, like riding the bench. We got to put into perspective these guys' age. So, yeah, I think there is a lower floor. There always is with these high school guys. But right. I think what they saw was, look, Langford can be a really good hitter, and he'll continue to probably hit at the major league level. But with, you have that mystery box with somebody like Clark, who's, potentially the ceiling of him being a 5-tool player who's stealing bases, who's hitting for power. He said he tries to model his game. When I talked to him, he said his favorite player growing up was Bryce Harper. Like, if the idea of getting even an iota of what Bryce Harper has meant to the Nationals and the Phillies, like, it's very exciting. So right now in the short term, yes, but we got to understand that this is not like the NFL or even the NBA where you get quick returns on these people that you draft. Like you knew with a LeBron James when he was drafted by the Cavs, okay, this guy has it. Sometimes when it comes to player development, it takes 2-3 years before you know what you have. So it'll be kind of a grind here as we see Wyatt Langford contribute to what is a really good Rangers lineup. But I think to pass judgment at this point is silly. We got to wait to see what this guy develops into.
Yeah, well said. Chris, thank you so much, man. We got to do this again. We got to link up. We're trying to go to a Tigers game as a crew here.
For sure. I'll hit you guys up. Yeah, no, I go down for the series now, so I'll probably be there at some point in the next couple weeks. And yeah, hit me up, man.
Let's make it happen. There you
go. A crunch time Chris and Company vlog, like a
little crossover action. Yeah. Talk about breaking the algorithm, man. That would be the way to go.
There you have it. Chris Castellani, free agent. And he's crushing it. Chris and Company. Go check it out. Link in the description. And he always, man, he does a great job. He is the man. When you get him going, he can spit.
And he knows what he's talking about too. Like he's on everything. One of the best in the game right now.
Base knower, mound knower.
It's the same thing. A ball knower, right?
Yeah, I like base knower. That's good. The mound knower. Yeah, he's the king of that.
That was really cool though, just because like you guys know, like I'm not the most tapped in with Tigers, and the only like real content that I use to actually get information from to keep up with the Tigers. I've watched a couple games this year, but it's been Chris. Like, because whether you hate him or you love him, you can't ignore that the man's entertaining. So for him to come on definitely means a lot, especially with him kind of going through the same thing we are. Obviously, he's in a different step in his career, so it's a little different. But
he's always been very gracious as well, like teaching, helping out and stuff. I've known him for a while now, and when I first met him, he was at Barstool, and he was just right away, just like, anything you need, let me know, just instantly. And he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the game. So great guy. Hopefully we can get him back on. We need to do that vlog, that little crossover vlog. That'd be fun. I would love to go to a baseball game and do a vlog like that.
Yeah, Chris is somebody that I just think, and not everybody has this, but somebody that you just know will succeed. He's talented, man.
No matter what.
Yeah, he's gonna succeed. And he's crushing it. But shout out to Chris, man. Thanks to him, and thanks for really everyone for tuning in. If you're a new viewer, please subscribe. I mean, support the fellas. We're live every single day, 8 to 10 p.m. We talk Lions, Red Wings, Tigers with Chris. A little bit of Pistons.
Nope.
No Pistons until Troy. No Pistons until Troy Weaver is either fired or they sell the basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's be real here. I mean, it's hard to talk about them during the season because they stink, but obviously when it gets into the offseason,
yes,
you talk a little bit more about Pistons. But yeah, it's going to be tough here. But boys, I saw this graphic. I couldn't wait to get to this because I didn't know what to make of it. I did not know what to make of it, but I want to ask you guys. And this sparked a thought of mine. Okay. And this was on 33rd Team.
We doing a little thought exercise right now?
They titled this.
Turn my brain on.
The best wide receiver trio in the NFC belongs to who? Now, I'll ask you. Where should the Lions be ranked as a wide receiver trio, not including tight ends?
Okay. So
I have the answer if you want me to throw it out.
That's hard because you'd go
ahead, do yours and I'll think.
I mean, you got Amon-Ra, J-Mo.
I'm going to say fourth.
Yeah.
I'm going to say fourth.
Right now.
That's what I'm saying. That's kind of where I was getting to. Like,
I think they're dead last in the NFC North. If I'm being honest, like if you break it down, genuinely, like every team.
Well,
like,
I meant NFC.
Oh, in the NFC? I don't know. The NFC, they're towards the bottom. It's one of the things that I did see the topic you put in the prep as well. Like do we overestimate this wide receiver core a little bit? Like when you look at the wide receiver cores around the NFL, and there's a graphic right there of guys.
I mean, look at this.
The Lions aren't close to this. Amon-Ra St. Brown is top 5 in the NFL to me right now, a wide receiver, and at his peak, he is one of the best in the league. But like J-Mo has the potential. Like he has the ceiling too, right? Has he done it? No. Outside of Josh Reynolds now leaving, DPJ, Khalif Raymond, you're not there with it. You're not even close to some of these teams.
Let's be real here, okay? The Bears, I get it, but some of these are a little sketch. Like the Bears, I get it. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Tyler Scott. I mean, the Eagles,
I think by default they're taking.
The Eagles, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Devontae Parker.
But the top 2 are just so good. We don't know what J-Mo is. You can't even say like J-Mo's on the Devontae Smith, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Puka Nacua, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk. He's not there yet.
Like the Rams, like Cooper Kupp, Puka, Demarcus Robinson.
Marcus was kind of balling out. He had like a month.
He was, but the only one I do respect here, 2, because I like Lukas. All right, 1, the Seahawks. That's a trio. The other one, I'll give it to the 49ers. Maybe the Bucks. Maybe
I was saying you better not be sleeping on it. If
Bucks.
Baker could throw more than 20 yards down the field, Trey Palmer would have had 2 deep shots on the Lions and probably would have changed the whole dynamic of the game when they went into Tampa. Trey Palmer, he's that guy now.
Well, the reason I brought this up, fellas, is like it made me think, and I get when people say, well, we have Laporta. Fair. Like I get that. But the 49ers, like you didn't see they had George Kittle on this graphic. So are we kind of overestimating the wide receiver room? I'll stick there because when we talk about wide receiver, and I know this is where Lukas is I'm gonna let you go first here, Lukas, because you're the advocate for Xavier Legette at 29. I've given you some pushback. Not that I don't want a wide receiver today, Booner. You'd appreciate this. I took Jalen Polk in my mock draft today at 61.
I was muted, but let's go, baby.
I do think a wide receiver is a need this year, earlier than later. But Lukas, you think you go get one at 29, huh? That's where you're at?
You know that's exactly how I feel because we've had this conversation. To your point, how what you were saying with Kool-Aid earlier, it's not that I'm against Kool-Aid. You're not against a wide receiver, but you see it a little differently. And my whole thing is because that drop off from after Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson, and then you go to Brian Branch, you can put at corner, and then they're bringing back a couple guys, and then you look at what we're talking about with Amon-Ra and J-Mo, and then it's like, then who? Because you can still go get another corner in the 3rd round, but you look at those offenses. This is an offensive league. You look at the weaknesses around the NFC, especially the powerhouses. It's in the secondary. Wide receiver at 29, you're more guaranteed to get the better player. You're guaranteed when you look at the depth there is a wide receiver, especially in the top half. You're getting a guy that can end up being a wide receiver 2 at the floor and sometimes, and then wide receiver 1 upside. And I don't think there's a lot of that in other positions in this draft. So wide receiver in the 1st round, I think it's a home run. It makes what you do even better, and it cripples the other teams around the NFC because you look at the corners, it's in. A lot of those good corners are in the AFC right now, outside of the Devon Witherspoons. A lot of them are in the AFC. So this is a chance for Brad to just absolutely step on some of the throats around the teams in the NFC and just go, we are the best offense in the NFL. When you add in Sam Laporta, when you add in Jahmyr Gibbs, and you add in David Montgomery behind this offensive line and Jared Goff, I think that's the perfect cherry on top of this whole rebuild. Offensively, for the next couple of years outside the line, you don't have to touch a thing.
I mean, I get it. I certainly understand. My argument will always be just like you say with Kool-Aid. I kind of have that same argument back where I'm like, Lukas, I like the depth. I like the depth. And now, if you have faith, this is where I will never say you're wrong, because if you have faith that Xavier Legette is so good, you should take him at 29. It's like, all right, fair. You know, if he's better than the 2nd, 3rd round guys that maybe me and Boone would be okay with.
Yeah,
it's fair, Boone. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Xavier Legette's going to be great. Again, like it's such a deep wide receiver class. I wouldn't mind if they take a Jalen Polk or if they go, 2nd, 3rd round. The thing with me with this whole like wide receiver thing around the NFL and the NFC, it's the Detroit Lions, and I think it's we can all agree like they have an insane amount of weapons. When you do talk about Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, those are 4 guys right there who are all 4 potential guys that could be Pro Bowlers and have been Pro Bowlers. So like you have those 4 dudes, but when it comes to wide receiver, and you have the depth, like J-Mo, you don't know. I'm with the Lukas thing to where it's like, yeah, if they do go Xavier Legette, I'm happy with it because you're adding to that wide receiver core. And look around the NFL right now. Teams stack up on wide receivers. There's a lot of elite wide receivers. You're putting your quarterback, especially a guy like Jared Goff, who needs weapons around him to be a great quarterback, and especially not weapons that are on 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, $100 million deals. You need wide receivers that are on that football team that are on rookie deals, so you're able to add more things around him. So that's where that's why to me it's so important to get another weapon in this draft, because now that you let Josh Reynolds walk, that's 600, 700 yards that you just let walk away. And you want JMO to step up. Yeah, you have DPJ, but those are guys like DPJ did have one good year. Those are guys you look around the NFC. Jeff, you showed the graphic. Look at the weapons around that quarterbacks have. And I know you have Ben Johnson, you have that. Add another weapon. Give yourself a chance at it with another guy, a rookie deal. Give yourself a chance, because when Amon-Ra, you're going to have to pay him. Guess what? Like now you're going to need to find and fill these weapons and these holes with rookie deals, because you just paid your wide receiver number 1. So to me, it's a rotation. It's almost a must to me. Like I hope, like Xavier Legette, I'd be happy with. Second round, go get me a weapon. Like I'm kind of stuck on that a little bit. And you'll see with my mock draft today, to where I kind of do believe in that, depending on who's available, who's going to be there. I want someone in that room. Like to me, it's a must to add, especially when you look at these teams, fellas. Break these teams down. Go look at the AFC, and like if we just showed the NFC graphic. I bet you there's an AFC graphic of the top wide receiver cores in the AFC. It's probably even that much better. That's who you play in the Super Bowl.
And it's funny where the league's heading, right? Like, back in the day, you'd have a number 1 wide receiver now, and then it went to, well, you need 2 number 1 wide receivers. Now it's like, well, you could use 3 number 1 wide receivers now, like 3 dudes. And, not that those guys are, the third wide receiver is a dude, but they're capable. And that's kind of, that's where your point is, Lukas, about Xavier Legette. Like you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Jameson, and you have Legette. And then that is including, on top of that, you have Sam Laporta. Like you can never have too many weapons, especially in today's day and age. So I completely understand that. I'm curious. Like that's why I can't wait for the draft for like a potential Xavier Legette scenario where he's drafted at 29 and Lukas is just snorting coke off the desk.
I'll lose my fucking mind.
Yeah.
And like a point that I kind of want to bring up, boys, and this is what I was thinking earlier too. Like when Brad traded up for J-Mo, 12th overall, you'd think in his mind, like, all right, now we got Amon-Ra and J-Mo. Those are 2 number 1 wide receivers. So we don't have to worry about that. Obviously, J-Mo's going to take some more time. But at this point, I know it's a little early to say because we haven't seen J-Mo for a full season. I don't see Jameson Williams with the other contracts on this team. We talk about people that they will not bring back. I don't really see Jameson Williams getting extended down the road. And I don't know how you guys feel about that. But if he's like, okay, I want to get a number 1 with J-Mo alongside Amon-Ra, I don't think we have that yet. I think he's still probably pretty hungry to go get that feature number 1 outside of Laporta as well through the receiving game.
Yeah, and then real quick, Boone, like this comment, Detroit Ryans, he says, Chiefs just won the Super Bowl without an elite receiver core.
There is a little difference there. They have Patrick Mahomes, and they have Travis Kelce, and they have Spagnuolo on the other side on that defense, and they have Andy Reid. There is a bit of a difference, but if you could add weapons, do that. Like you don't have Jared Goff is not Patrick Mahomes. I love Jared.
That's not like a bad thing. Chris just said it. Like there's a handful of guys that are just on another level, and that's okay. Jared, he's not just Jared. I don't want to single him out, but like with a lot of quarterbacks, you can never have too many weapons. Like it's how that works. Like look at the other side. Look at Brock Purdy. Look at that 49ers offense. Debo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Like they got weapons.
No, hey, don't sleep on the almost Super Bowl MVP.
Jawan Jennings and Christian McCaffrey, weapon in the passing game. So he's basically another wide receiver. So
and eventually like it's obvious, like, yes, Ben Johnson's going to find a way to use these guys, DPJ, J-Mo. Like he's going to find a way. That's inevitable. It's just, hey, what do you want your offense to do? Like you do have to look towards the future a little bit. That's right to me a little bit where let's add someone. Why not? It's not going to hurt anything. You just lost your number 2. You do have J-Mo who could be your number 2, but to Lucas's point, are you going to resign? Like, what's the future look like with the Jameson Williams? No one knows. I would love for it to be a high ceiling and he exceeds every expectation we thought. Is it going to happen? We don't know. No one knows.
Mm-hmm.
And one injury, boys, doesn't even have to be to Amon-Ra or Jamie. You talk about an injury to DPJ, an injury to Leaf during the season. Now that wide receiver room gets even thinner. And I know we all hope Antoine Green can be something, but outside of those two, you're banking on a 7th-round pick. So that's why it's like, even to your guys' point, you don't take a Leggett. You take a Jalen Polk, a Brendan Rice, a Ricky Pearsall, a Roman Wilson I would even love in the 3rd, 4th round, even though he's very similar to Amon-Ra. Just somebody that's in there that can dominate the middle of the field and give a little bit more of a deep threat, so it takes pressure off of Amon-Ra and Laporta. So when you're playing those 49ers teams, now you got an extra gadget in your game plan.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be real here. Wide receiver is something that you could use. Another wide receiver doesn't mean that you've lost confidence in Jameson Williams. It just means you have to replace Josh Reynolds. But we can all agree, and we've always say this because we just have to make it very clear. Your number one goal should be getting this defense, this scoring defense, like top 10, top 12, like specifically, but just defense in general. They have to be a top 10, top 12 unit. And then now we're talking real success. Like you go get an Xavier Leggett, go get a Jalen Polk, Brandon Rice, whoever you like. Who cares? Roman Wilson. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But if this defense is significantly improved, like, yeah, you're not going to give up. You'd throw a 17-point lead in the second half of an NFC Championship game. Like that should.
I think DJ Reader and himself helps that 17-point. I think you put him in that game. Brock Purdy running around like a madman in that second half. The whole I just think that whole dynamic.
Well, you don't think Davenport has an effect, or what's going on
against Trent Williams? Or are we gonna act like that, or even on the other side? Like, no, not a chance.
Giving him that work.
Marcus Davenport would have been fine as a rotational piece in that NFC Championship game. He would have been fine, but I would have loved to see DJ Reader out there instead of Benito fucking Jones. Much respect to Benito. Happy he got picked up again by the Dolphins. He might be able to contribute there behind Phillips, but hey, time to go. Time to upgrade, baby.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Reader's definitely going to help that defensive line. He's definitely going to help your secondary. And he's definitely going to help in the postseason. But, like, my only thing with DJ, Davenport, this defensive line, they just got to stay healthy. That's really all. Like, if DJ's on the field and he's on the field through the postseason, we're good. That's all that matters.
You know what? To me, too, that I mean, that's just the thing with the whole football team. It's like last year. That's why last year hurt so bad. General. Yeah, last year, that like losing in the championship game when you're up 17 points, that's why it hurts so bad. And like Jeff, I remember when we got left Ford Field, and I was so mad and just so like I don't want to talk to anyone. Don't look at me. Like the Booner path looked like it just was like totally cut off, and I was just like I don't want to hear anything from anyone. And you're like, oh, Booner, it's like it's fine, man. Like. We'll be back. We'll be back. I'm like, dude, I don't think you understand. Like, it was just like one of those moments where it's like, I don't think you understand in the NFL how many things, like injury wise, that was the first thing I thought of is just how many things injury wise have to go your way, unless like to be able to get to this point.
Well, we had
injuries, but guys, you did for a while. Because that was like in my. That was the only thing in the back of my head. Like, I knew, like, we had a football team and Brad Holmes and Dan and Jared. Like, I was like, I know we're going to get back to this point. But the only thing in the back of my head that just lingered there, and I think I told you this maybe when we got back and, like, I calmed down a little. I was just like, dude, like, everyone ended up being healthy down the stretch when it came to the playoff run. Like, everyone came back. You didn't have injuries in the playoffs. Everything worked out of the Sam Laporta thing, but outside of that, but like everything worked out. Like the offensive line was healthy up to a point. Like everything worked out. You just don't know what's going to happen in an NFL season when it comes to injuries. So you need to make sure. That's why I do like Brad Holmes' kind of way of doing things a little bit. Is like he's just like, I want depth on this football team. Like, give me depth. Yeah, we can go after all these big names. I'll spend the money and just get depth and depth and depth. Because if there are injuries, then we can withstand them. So, and I know there were some. I understood some people like Ronan said Sutton was injured. There was some like Jonah Jackson was injured and didn't play in the last game. But to a point, like throughout the whole year, it felt like we just had everyone. Like there was a little rotation, guys. There was no major injuries to where we had these setbacks where it's like if Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down or Jared Goff goes down, you're in a pretty tough spot after that. You're like
and
a major.
Okay,
but like if one of these big time guys gets like a major injury, you guys remember the NFL last year? How many quarterbacks got hurt?
That was crazy. I think it was like 11, 12.
Dude, so like we had that to where it didn't happen to us. And you were like, that's what I mean when it comes to injuries, is just like you had all of your big stars stay healthy, no major injuries, and you fell short. So I know that's like every day I wake up and I pray, like that's the first thing I pray about is just next year, please give us no major injuries for the Booner path. For the Booner path, please just keep everything intact.
I feel bad, Boone, because I feel like the amount of times we've talked about, like, me and you argued about the Booner path, which we know we've kind of gotten past. I feel like we're on a good
me and you butted heads really big.
But remember what I always used to say to you about how basically what you were worried about, which I honestly now I kind of feel bad. But the amount of times I've been like, Booner, injuries every year is not the same, and you had some you go to war with me, man. You stood on business, but I'm glad you're where you are now, because
I mean, I'm gonna go back to where I was before when it comes to week 1.
But you can't. Although you're right, the Booner path, you don't deal with what ifs. All right,
we deal with what we have.
We don't deal with there could be an injury. No, even though it's probably realistic, they did get pretty healthy. Penei Sewell, he was majority healthy. Aiden Hutchinson healthy. Like Jared Goff healthy. Like that's kind of what you look at. Amon-Ra, a little banged up, 16. But he majority healthy.
Played in 16 games though.
Yeah. You know, that's
the one thing, a lot of these guys too, if you guys have noticed this, a lot of these guys prioritize like staying healthy and making sure they're in good shape, which helps a lot. Like go look at some of these big names like Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Penei. Go look at how many missed games they've had in their career. It's actually, like, I was looking at that a couple weeks ago. It's astounding. Like it's crazy to see how many games these guys have missed. It's not a lot. And these guys have taken very, very good cares of themselves, which I love to see. I love that. Well,
boys, it is 9:18. So
here we go.
You know, we got to get into the mock drafts here. And we'll start. We do this every single Monday. It's Mock Draft Monday. And we'll start us off with I don't know whose this is.
I think that's me. That's me, boys. This draft got interesting. I was doing it right before the show with Jeff. And I tried to stay away from Leggett this time, just receiver in general. I just want to take a different avenue, Jeff, kind of how you were saying with your mock draft earlier on the channel. Make sure you go check that out because Jeff cooked on that. But I traded up to go get Lot 2 and first, and neither of them were there. So I got fucked. So I'm looking at it, and then I remember the conversation that Gentry brought up last week. And he's like, well, DJ Reader, he's up there in age. He's had a lot of injury past. Ali McNeil, he's up for a contract this year. But then you look at Byron Murphy, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I could go corner here. I could trade right back. But I'm like, if you add Byron Murphy to this Lions defensive line, and you just let them play 5-2 fronts the whole time, I think it honestly plays to the strength of this team, because I don't think they're going to get an edge if it's outside a lot to a verse that can just contribute on 3 downs. So what you can do is the money ball effect, which I hate to do at the edge position because of the struggles that Hutch had last year. But Byron Murphy, one-on-one, year 1 can get you 5+ sacks, in my opinion, from the interior of the defensive line. In 3 years, I think Byron Murphy is a guy that can get you 9-10 sacks. He's the defensive tackle 1 for your defense. And you look at Jack Campbell, Brian Branch. If you have a guy like that at every level is on your defense, Byron Murphy, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, they could all be all Pro Bowl type of players. I think the defense for years to come, both getting to the rusher and stopping the run with Byron Murphy, that's how you do it. And then after that, I was like, all right, we're just going to go all defense. I took Max Melton in the second, didn't think twice about it. I don't give a fuck what PFF says about Mohamed Kamara. Mohamed Kamara in the 3rd round is a steal. You get him. I think he's a guy that by year 2, if they were to re-sign Marcus Davenport again, or even James Houston, that he would be starting over them. I truly believe that. So went a little off my normal draft strategy, but I like it. I would have liked to have another pick here and grab a receiver, whoever could be maybe a Malachi Corley, but Malik Washington, somebody like that, but walked out only defense, fellas.
Byron Murphy.
Mm-hmm. That is a Brad pick too, because you're looking at like, how is this gonna fucking work? Like, what are we doing here? But
yeah, that is what he does, right?
Opinion, and it wasn't
you know
close.
What's funny? I did that mock earlier, and the 2 biggest things, which was funny. So if anyone listened to it, number 1, thank you. But number 2, the 2 funniest things that people would bring up: 1, what'd you give up to trade up? Which is like, I even said, I'm like, who cares? Because like it's going to be a different deal if Brad were to trade up anyway. So I just, the fact that the whole point of it was they traded up. The other thing was you always, someone commented, it was like, we always say Brad is going to do best player available, but you always draft for fit. And that, again, this is always my mock draft and what I think the Lions should do and who I think they should take. I think if you just do BPA, like it won't really make sense if I'm being real. Like, it just like if I traded up and took the best player, I mean, it would have been a position where you're like, what the fuck? Like,
right. If you trade up, you have your eye on a guy. That's the point of trading.
Yeah,
up.
So I have to kind of watch
BPA
it. There has to be like a balance where you're like, it's BPA, but also it kind of works.
Yeah,
like Byron Murphy, you're drafting for the future. Like, he is he's a guy that, like, kind of what you said, Lucas. Like, you're drafting him, but you know he's going to, if there's an injury, he's ready. But even far beyond that, beyond DJ Reader, beyond Ali McNeil, he'll be a dog.
I do think too, Jeff, like to your point as well, like when you trade up, Brad is a BPA guy. What's going to happen and what you saw like with the Jameson Williams, like they were sitting there. If you guys remember the video, they didn't trade up yet, but when they noticed Jameson Williams dropped to 12, they all started clapping, call that, like, I can't remember actually. I think they waited to trade up to make sure he fell, and then, hey, call it in. We're trading. Let's go. Let's go after it. Like, if this guy's available, we want it. I think they have their list of guys, their BPA board. And hey, Byron Murphy might be like top 10 in their BPA list. If he falls to 18, we already know that we've been speaking with the GM over in Cincinnati. Hey, if we have our guy's available, we're going to call you back. We're moving up to 18. That's how like when I did my draft today, I had a vision to me. It's like, you obviously can't do it and be like, hey, if this guy drops, I'm going to trade up real quick because the draft starts and it goes through. I guess you could slow it down and see that. But when I did it, the first time I did it, and I just traded up with the team, I wanted to see who was there. The guy I wanted was there, like, who would have been at the top of my BPA board, and he was there, and I'm like, taking him. I got up, I made the exact same trade as Lucas, except I got an extra pick, and I added another pick in. Like, I did it a little different, but I traded with the Bengals, and it was, please hope this guy's here. And the first draft I did, he was there, and I was like, all right, cool. Now I'm off and running. So I think that's the way Brad does it. It's kind of like, I'm with Lucas. I think he trades up. I think he has his board, and if there's going to be guys who fall in this draft, just like every year, if a guy that he has at number 1, number 2, number 3 is falling, bang, give up the capital. I'm in.
Well, this is the other comment that I think this is a spot on comment. The board BPA is not Brad's BPA. That's another reason why I struggle with like only doing BPA drafts, is like, how are we supposed to know who this man's BPA is? Like, Jahmyr Gibbs was his BPA when he traded back and picked him at 12. Like, who would have thought that? So that's why I don't like doing just mocks and being like, all right, take the best player available, because that's what Brad's going to do. You do, but you also kind of look at position, which you kind of did here, Lucas. I mean, you grabbed Max Melton second, which is a good pick, great pick. And then you got Mohamed Kamara on the third. So you got basically defensive line and you got a corner. So
I love this too, that you went double defensive line.
Yeah,
I do like that.
Because I feel like Byron's more of like a luxury pick. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's going to be great to have him. It's a rotational piece and eventually be a starter, but your need's still defensive end. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't even be mad if they go defensive edge in the first round, and then still in the third round, they get a Mohamed Kamara, or they get a Booker, or they get a try. I wouldn't hate that, because now you have a guy that you could get in the third round who has potential, and he doesn't have that pressure of having to be that number 2 on and could help him get that much better. Like, you just really upgraded your defensive line.
Yeah, I think you did a good job, Lucas. You know what? You got some players. If you guys have been watching for some time now, you are familiar with these players at this point, who we kind of talk about. Byron Murphy, I like it. He did something different. But he's still going to be a dog here. But let's pull up Booner's. Booner, I saw you kind of cooked here.
Thank you.
ACC guy.
This is my favorite. I love this draft. Ooh. I love this. If this happens,
you cooked here, Bone.
Thank you. If this happens, I'm in love with it. I did what Lucas did. I traded up with the Bengals. I don't know why the Bengals, but it just something about it. I was like, all right, I'm going to trade up and see who's here. First time I did, I told you guys earlier today, I did a draft, and I got Jared Verse, Keon Coleman. I don't think I got Chris Jenkins, and I got Chris Abrams-Drain, and I deleted it. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, no. And I wanted to get it back because, like, the board fell that way. So, obviously, there's there's like a long shot of that happening of Jared Verse going to 18. But if he's there at 18 and Brad sees that, I would hope Brad gives up. I would give up almost maybe our first next year to just go up and get him or get an edge to go with Aiden Hutchinson, a guy that's falling who has the high ceiling and can go out there and be that dude. Go and get him. Add to this defensive line. Get the bookend edge. Like, I'm all in on that. I only had to give up a second. I got back a third round and I gave up a fourth. I don't know. It went through. I don't know how likely that is. I don't really care about that. It's more so
who gives a fuck?
It's more so him just trading up. So I like Jared Verse at 18. 61. I know you guys, Keon and Luke or Jeff. Jalen Polk was still on the board. Jalen Polk was on the board. But Keon Coleman at 61. This is a guy that at one point was a first-round draft pick projected, had a tough combine. We talked about this, and he's dropped into the second. If you get him at the end of the second round, which what Keon's ceiling is and what he could be in the NFL, I think that has more value than getting a Jalen Polk later. Yeah. Like, if he's sitting there and you're sitting there at 61 and Keon Coleman, and I'll tell you what, I did a couple mocks today and Keon was there on every one. Seems very realistic that right now he might be dropping a little bit. So if he's there at 61, take him. Getting an edge.
That would be better value than taking lunch money from the kid that does TikTok dances in the hallway at high school. You would be walking
do that as well.
With a steel walking. You don't have to worry about a damn thing. You just walk out there victorious. No backlash, no nothing.
Yeah,
this is an A+ draft, Boone.
Thank you. And then Chris Jenkins, I'm just sitting there in the next pick. It's just Chris Jenkins just sitting at 73 for me. And I'm like, oh, I have to take. Like, I was going down, like maybe I was looking for an interior offensive lineman. I got stuck into the needs. And then I go, you know what? Chris Jenkins is available. Brad's going BPA. If Chris Jenkins is on the board at 73, zero chance he passes up. He might trade up back into the 60s to get Chris Jenkins if he's fallen. So Chris Jenkins at 73, and then Chris Abrams-James. I don't know if I have to talk about him a ton. They gave me a D for that, which is ridiculous. I think that's just more so Chris Abrams-James is kind of I think as we've explained,
I don't even pay attention to those anymore.
He's kind of a Lions guy. Like, he's a Brad guy. Just let him come in, let him learn, let him just develop and become kind of who he is. Again, I think it's a mutual agreement that he can be better than Ennis Ekstra in the NFL. So I think getting him in the third round is a steal again. And at that, this is a guy that we saw at the comp. Just these four guys, just give me this. If we leave draft weekend with this, and they're still both picks.
Draft. That's the best draft in the league outside of the Bears getting Caleb Williams one.
Oh yeah, I would love this.
Jared Verse.
How do I sound, boys? Do I sound good over here?
Sound a little nasally, but you're good.
Tough,
you're good.
Dude.
Hey,
my radio voice is off right now. Not good.
You don't got a radio voice. You lead the Booner path. You have the Booner path voice, Boone.
It's true.
Yeah, Boone, I like it. I mean, you got Jared Verse at 18, stole him from ETN's Rams in the chat there. And I'm a fan of that. I would love to see his reaction. Then you got Keon Coleman. Chris Jenkins, dog. We all love Chris Jenkins. And that's a guy, like I said, third round pick. You drafted Broderick Martin, but still Chris competition. And I think I feel more comfortable with him going in there this year than Broderick Martin. But we'll see. Maybe he takes a significant jump. But I think Chris Jenkins is a great pick. And then you address corner. So I think you did a good job, Boo. I think you did there.
Chris Jenkins would have the Lions purchase him a one-way ticket. Well, Broderick Martin a one-way ticket out of town. DJ Reader, they bought him one-way ticket in town. Broderick Martin one-way ticket out of town.
I don't know about that, dude. Come on.
Drop him in Arizona for a 7th-round pick.
Again, here goes Lucas with a screw Jeff.
If you give me Chris Jenkins, if Chris Jenkins becomes a Detroit Lion, there will be no room for Levi or Broderick in this defensive interior room. Zero.
No.
Lucas wants to run with two. He wants to run with 3D depth. Lucas, I have to keep teaching you this. Depth.
Can I interest you in a Chris Jenkins Levi Onwuzurike swap?
Why not Tyson Alualu?
Well, he's already off the roster, I think.
Bring him back. Bring him back for good times. Bring him back. Bring him back. He's like the
one
Nate
more
Sutton.
Run. Come on.
Got one more in me.
Come on, Tyson. Well, fellas, I'm excited for this one as well because Booner, you took Jared Verse. I went ahead and traded up for Latu.
Wow.
And this is the first half of my mock. Don't look at the trade, please.
I was gonna say now
I
do see now why people were like, Jeff, why'd you give up so much?
Yeah,
I get it. But
I literally like what I thought is I just want to get this done. Like I don't even give a shit. Just trade away a bunch of picks. Like because again, to me it doesn't really matter about the picks. It's just getting the pick. Brad will figure that out. You know, he'll figure out the trade itself. But I wanted to trade up. I traded up to 17. And sorry, ETN.
Please do.
Your Rams. I stole another defensive lineman from you, and that's Latu. Jags traded back. And I got Jalen Polk at 61. So I got Latu. I think if he didn't have that neck injury, which again, a big if, he would be the number one defensive lineman off the board. So I get him at 17. And then Jalen Polk, who is a dog, played really well as a number 2 wide receiver, the best in the draft at contested catches. I think he's a perfect Josh Reynolds replacement. Like just kind of how he is. Not as good of a route runner as Josh Reynolds, obviously, he's much more seasoned, but I think Jalen Polk will develop into that. And I think he's a perfect complement playing alongside Jameson and Amon-Ra. So love that pick as well. Then Renardo Green.
Love that.
At 73. Best man-to-man corner in the draft. Like best man-to-man corner. A little small. Me and Lucas kind of talked about it before the show, and you've been kind of saying that, Lucas. Just with the size, he's probably not going to be all purely outside. He's an outside corner. But we'll see. He's about 5'11", 5'11-ish, about 180. So I just love the talent there. To me, that's more of like best player available at 73. It was Renardo Green to me. So I cut off the second half. You can check out the other half on the mock draft video I did today. But this is the first 3 rounds of it. And edge, wide receiver, and corner, I'm cool with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole thing with Renardo Green is Florida State offensively, they had Keon Coleman, they had Jordan Travis, and then they had Jared Verse on the defensive side of the ball. So Renardo Green didn't get any talent, especially being an underside corner in the ACC where they have Nate Wiggins already. They're going to be looking at him as an underside corner. But Renardo Green in the third, he's quick. Like you said, Jeff, he's one of the best man-to-man corners in the draft. He is going to be in the slot, but if you get him, Booner, that's one of the depth pieces that would get no flack from Klotz here, right? I would be all for Renardo Green, and then Jalen Polk. I think you hit it right on the head, Jeff. I think he's not the route runner or blocker that Josh Reynolds is, but just as the impact on the offense, I think he can, year one, have just about the amount of production that Josh Reynolds had. He's obviously not going to have the chemistry between Goff, but as a number 2, number 3 guy, I think instantly we talk about guys that can add another level to this offense. He's one of the guys that can do it, and I don't even have to say much about Jared Verse, Boone. I can let you cook on that one.
I got Latu, Boone.
Oh, Latu, my fault.
Well, yeah, I think.
What do you think?
I'm starting to really fall, and I'm going to be very, very happy when it comes to the day one of the draft. If the Detroit Lions move up and get an edge, if you go get Latu, if you get Jared Verse, if one of those guys start falling, it's just I would love Dan Campbell to go up and get one. That's where I'm at with it. I'm very, very locked in on. I just want another edge on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, and sitting at 29 to get a Kool-Aid McKinstry who probably isn't going to step in right away and be a big time player. He'll probably help out, but he might not be, or whoever it is, Xavier Legette, who will be a wide receiver 2, potentially 3 to behind JMO. Like, it's just, to me, it's, you can trade up, you have the assets to go up, and you've seen Brad do it before, and go get an edge who's going to be he's going to literally start on that defense instantly will be on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson and affecting the game right away. And I think that's what, like, right now, when you're looking at it, best player available, all of that, everything into it, go get me a dude that can play football. And I think Latu, I think Jared Verse, I think these guys are those type of guys. And if one of them start to fall, attack and go get them. That's where I'm at with it. That might be some of my mock drafts going forward.
And also, real quick, and I know Lucas and you too, Booner, are kind of in lockstep me with Latu. Like, I completely understand, and I saw the comment, and he's my guy too. That guy up north, me and him are always in lockstep. He's not in agreement with the Latu pick, and honestly, I can't fault people for being hesitant because I don't hate it, because I understand a neck injury. Like, I completely understand that, but for me, he's so good that if you don't take him and he goes a pick after you and he turns into an absolute animal, you're going to be sitting there going, damn it. I had him right there. And I was
if
nervous.
they take that Brad Holmes did his homework, like I'll say that. This isn't like a second, third, fourth round pick to where you kind of, hey, he's hurt. Maybe like we've done our homework, but maybe he hits. No, if you take Latu and you trade up and you waste assets to go get him, you would think Brad Holmes has done his homework to go do that. And I know with Jameson Williams, he was hurt, but we know what Jameson Williams' ceiling is. Same thing with Latu. It's a very similar situation. It's the same thing.
Boys,
that ceiling is very, very high.
You look at who's coming in the division most likely, and Caleb Williams. You turn on Latu's best tape. You can argue that his best game was against USC. So he knows, especially with Jordan Love, if they bring in JJ McCarthy, whoever they bring in at quarterback, even if they bring in Bo Nix, we're talking about the Vikings here, they're going to be mobile quarterbacks. So if you get a guy with athleticism as Latu, he is exactly what you want out of a 2024, 2025 defensive end in the NFL. I understand the injury concern. You look at the quarterbacks, you look at the tackles in this division outside of Christian Darrisaw. You put Latu there year one, he's winning one-on-ones. I don't have any doubt about that. I don't think he's going to go get you 10-plus sacks, but he's going to get you between 7 and 9, in my opinion. We talk about it all the time. That's all you need on the other guy on the other side of the Hutch is a guy that can win one-on-ones. I think Latu can do that year one, and I think he's absolutely, especially with Hutch on the other side, year two can give you 12, 13, 14 sacks if Hutch and Aleem and all those guys are doing their jobs as well.
Fellas, I want to transition here because we got about 13 minutes before Mailbag, and I was spending some time today just doing random research. Like, I don't know why. I was sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I had some free time. Let me go through and
it's Harvard bag, man.
Well, I was thinking about, you got Jake Bates hitting another 60+ yard field goal. And I know that was trending. Advance fans talking about a kicker. I had them taking Cam Little in my mock draft in the 7th round. Yeah, Arkansas.
Okay.
Yep. John Calipari's new.
I think he might be the best kicker actually in this.
I saw
draft.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got the fuck out of Kentucky.
Yeah. And Cam Little's a dog.
Wild move, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll let you keep going. Keep going, Jeff. Sorry.
Too. Yeah.
Not a Kentucky show here. Let's keep going. Not a Kentucky show.
Yeah.
But John Calipari, brother. Whoa.
Well, I saw, Jake Bates kicking bombs, and then people talking about a kicker. I drafted a kicker in my mock, and I started thinking, I'm like, Jeff, why do you keep drafting kickers? Like, why do I want a good kicker so bad? Like, what's the importance of having a good kicker? So I sat in, just did research and looked at, tried to compare the teams that were in the Super Bowl, not necessarily the winner, but teams that made it to the Super Bowl I did the last 6 years, and looked at who the kicker was for each team, and even dove into kind of how they played in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. I was like, how important is a kicker? Like we talk about it. Do you just need someone that's solid, or do you need someone that's really one of the best at their position? And so, I look back, in this last year is ironic because you look at the Kansas City and San Francisco Super Bowl. You had Buckner hit a 57-yarder, or Moody hit a 55-yarder, and then Buckner hit a 57-yarder, and they really displayed the importance of having a kicker. Like, absolutely, it did. Then they broke records for the longest kick in the Super Bowl. So there, you could be like, well, yeah, obviously having a kicker is important. Like, you watch the Super Bowl, you're like, obviously quarterback play matters, but having a kicker definitely helps, especially when the last 3 Super Bowls have been decided by 3 points, which is another side point to that. And it's not always field goal winners, right? Kicking a field goal to win the game, but they're still 3-point games, the last 3 Super Bowls. But yeah, last year you had Buckner and Moody. And then you even go back a year prior, Kansas City, Philly. You had Buckner and Jake Elliott. You go back and look at LA, Cincinnati. You had Matt Gay and Evan McPherson.
Good.
That was the kickers in that game. You go back.
McPherson was cooking that year too.
Yeah,
McPherson
bailed them out all year.
Matt Gay was a good kicker.
Yeah, he was hitting bombs. Talk about it in the chat. He's a Rams fan. He was cooking that year too. And that was also, again, a 3-point game. You go to the year prior when Tampa Bay absolutely stomped Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes had no O-line. That's the exception right there, is the Bucs, because they had, in a way, kind of Tom freaking Brady. But like early in his career,
who was their kicker though?
Yeah, kickers. Ryan Suckup.
Suckup's good.
That year, he didn't have his best year. He didn't have his best year.
But he's been good.
2 for 7 from 50+ that year. But it's okay. But
Suckup's
generally
been good though. Suckup has been good,
and that's fair. That's fair.
Right.
But
I just
also,
wanna
it
make
was like
sure
a complete
on the
ass
record.
whooping. So, I don't think having
It is.
the kicker affected. But regardless, you still had Buckner in that game. You go to the year prior to that, Kansas City, San Francisco, Buckner, Gould. That was that game. And he was playing really well, too. New England, LA, 13-3. That was the Jared Goff year. 13-3. That game was defensive game. That was Zerloin, who was he's a really good kicker. And was that
It wasn't Vinatieri. You talking about for the Patriots?
Yeah, who was that kicker in that game?
Gostkowski.
Yes, that's who it was. So yeah,
He's
that's
a
my point.
down kicker.
He was.
Gostkowski was a goat.
And he
Just
played.
a lot
he played
of
long, didn't
dogs you just named there. A lot of dogs.
he played long in the NFL, didn't he?
Yeah, he was in the
He-
Patriots.
he-
He was after Vinatieri for a while.
Yeah,
But
directly
yeah,
after
but my-
Vinatieri, and he was there all the way until I think Tom left.
But my point is, the last 6 Super Bowls, I just named you. And yes, the Chiefs were in the majority of those. But even on the opposing side, everybody needs a good kicker. At least a good kicker, not a mediocre kicker. And as much as we have the discussion, it is important. Like Michael Badgley is not in the same breath as any of these kickers at all. Badgley stinks. And he's if you want to talk about where he's like in the mid tier, which isn't good enough. Like you can't trust him. I mean, the Chiefs trust Buckner to hit a 57-yarder, and the 49ers trusted Moody to hit a 55-yarder. You think Dan Campbell's attempting that?
50,
Hell no.
51-yarder at home.
I do think Jeff, and
50, that's
Jeff,
on the line. I mean, 55,
listen,
57. You just need a good kicker, man. It's important.
I'm with
That's
you,
the
Jeff.
point of this exercise. Like
because I brought this up a couple weeks ago in regards to go look at teams around the NFL that are good teams and go look at who their kickers are, because they're not scrubs. Every team that's competing and contending for a Super Bowl right now all have elite kickers, and like Jake Moody, I mean, even like Jake Elliott for the Eagles. I don't know. I can name some. I can go through the list here. Just currently on rosters, like Evan McPherson for the Bengals, Super Bowl contender. 49ers, Jake Moody. Seahawks, Jason Myers. Like, name a team and I'll throw it out there and give you their kicker. And it's just every single contending team in the NFL has a legit field goal kicker who can go out there and be consistent. You can trust 50 plus. That was the stat that I threw out to Adam a couple weeks ago, to where just go look at, like, you can just go on ESPN and just look at kicks beyond 50, like the percentages, or just made kicks beyond 50. And like, it's astounding how many times some of these teams that contend for a Super Bowl are out there and kick 50-yard field goal. Like, it's like, well, Dan Campbell's not aggressive. Well, it's like, if you had a guy that can consistently kick 50 plus and do that, and you could rely on that, you're gonna do it more. That's just the way the game works. So I'm with that. And Jeff, Seahawks aren't contenders. I'm just naming some teams that have been there and have good kickers that are like, hey, we need someone like that. Go get the guy over there with the Michigan Panthers, Jake Bates. Go at least take a shot at him. That was how the Cowboys got Brandon Aubrey, was from the XFL or USFL or whatever it was, is they just went and signed a guy that went crazy in USFL, went and got Brandon Aubrey, and he's one of the best kickers in the NFL now. Probably the best.
Like Boone, think about it like this. This is what's even crazier. Take this year, for example, championship games, Ravens, Chiefs, Tucker, Buckner, NFC, Moody,
Badgley,
and then Badgley,
who's been cut twice in 2 years. But hey,
that is like,
he's 1 for 2 or whatever it is.
Yeah, he made a 50-yarder. It's like, okay, here's where we are. This is where we are with this. Okay, Badgley is like going to the. It's like, you're in school. It's like the lunch table. You got the boys. The boys are eating hot lunch or whatever. They got pizza that day. The boys are eating pizza, and Badgley sits down and has fucking broccoli. That's what that is. Like, he just does not fit. It is not his setting. Everyone's like, what do you, what? We're all enjoying pizza. This guy's got broccoli. That's what this is. And I know it's a terrible analogy, but you get the point. That's the championship games. Tucker, Buckner. You have, Moody. And then you just got Badgley. He's like, hey, guys, what's going on?
Can I throw out another stat here real quick, too? Because this is what I was talking with Adam about a couple weeks ago. This quick stat real quick, fellas. I'm just going to name off regular season, because I know Badgley hit a 50-yarder in the playoffs. Everyone comes at me because I missed that a couple weeks ago. Let's just go 50-yard field goals in the regular season. Brandon Aubrey, 10 for 10. Matt Prater, 9 for 12. Dustin Hopkins, 8 for 8. Matt Gay, 8 for 13. Cario Santos, 7 for 8. Jake Elliott, 7 for 8. Chase McLaughlin, 7 for 8. Evan McPherson, 7 for 12. Cameron Dicker, 7 for 9. Chris Boswell, 6 for 7. Blake Groupie, 6 for 9. I could just keep going. And you guys notice about the attempts here? 9, 10, 11, 12 attempts. Guess what in the regular season? I don't think the Detroit Lions, and I could be wrong here, I don't think the Detroit Lions, they might not have attempted a 50-yard field goal during the regular season. And I could be wrong. Let me look at Riley. Oh, Riley Patterson, 1 for 2. We 1 for 2. Sorry.
They let him.
I'm talking about regular season. I'm not talking about playoffs. I'm talking about regular season. 1 for 2. Badgley never kicked a 50-yarder in the last couple of games of the regular season. Riley Patterson, I think, was 1 for 2 maybe. And like, if you just go look at the best kickers in the NFL, they're kicking 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 50-yarders throughout a regular season, and you can't even kick more than 2 as a team. That's like, you're putting yourself, like, you're hurting yourself there, to where if you're in a scenario where you need it and you just are like, okay, let's just go. Like, I get Dan Campbell's a guy who wants to push the buttons and wants to go for it. I love that about him at times. But there are just times in games when you get in these shootouts or you get into a drive and you're like, man, we've been struggling to get points. We just need points. And you get there and you're like, oh, we can't do it because guess what? We don't have an elite kicker that can do that just consistently. Imagine just having a guy to where you can be like, hey, if we just need points to get on the board, get the kind of offensive momentum rolling, we just need to get to the 50 or the 45, and we can get a 60-yarder out of Jake Bates. Like, imagine that, fellas. Instead of having to be like, oh, we just have like 4th down, go for it.
We already live in that world, Booner. I imagine it. I just picture coming off the Money Badgers' right boot, flying into the sky. Patrick Mahomes on the Super Bowl, just watching it go through the air.
Hear me out real quick.
It'd have 60 plus of
Lucas, looking at that would be like staring right into the eclipse with no glasses. You'd be like, oh my God.
Again, that's a myth. I did that today. The
argument, though, on the other side for people, fellas, the argument on the other side, this is the argument that I get from Adam. Well, if you just upgrade the defense, you win the Super Bowl. Listen, you can upgrade the defense and get a kicker. Guess what? You're better both ways. You can do both things. Why not do
3 phases? You're better.
Why can't we be like, hey, we need a better kicker and still be like, hey, we would love a good defense?
You can't shake up the chemistry in that kicker room, Booner. You can't shake it up.
You
can't afford to disrupt the team chemistry with the kicker room. Can't do it.
I'm going to be in there long snapping, so yeah, I'm going to shake up that room. I'm going to say something.
He's calling people out for a long snapper.
Purposely just sabotaging Badgley's kicks.
I get so annoyed when we talk about the kicker and people are like, well, we don't need one. Oh, we don't need to talk about that. We need to do that. Why can't kicker be a part of that upgrade as well? So it's part of the team, right?
Yeah, and honestly, who knows if Dan will even use the kicker? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I really don't. Like, I think the Lions have to, upgrade kicker. But like, even if you do, is he going to use him? There's that too. I think that's a fair point. It's like, you can't say yeah. Like, there's no definitive like answer, I don't think, to that. So you won't know until you get one. You know, it's easy to be like, oh, he doesn't kick because he doesn't have a kicker. Okay, well, let's get a kicker and find out. Watch, he'll still go for it. And it's not like I have a problem. Sometimes I do. But that's just who Dan is.
At the end of the game, you're down 2 points and you had the ball at the 40-yard line and you're just like, oh, or 45. It's like, oh no, what do we do? Let's go for it. Oh, what do we do here? We're in a weird spot. It's just, I don't know. It's
Hey, with all this rap news, fellas, J. Cole, he has a song. It's called Love Yours, and it talks about how you can't be happy in life until you appreciate what you have. And I think you need to both of you take a deep look in the mirror, find a picture of the Money Badger, and love yours. Appreciate what you have, okay?
Why are you treating him like he's like the ugly, like you got like a couple sons and he's the ugly son. He's all, you gotta love him. You know,
money without happiness. What is money without happiness? What is family without the people you love?
Okay. Yeah,
I great song, by the way.
Quoting now at this point.
Great song.
It is a great song.
But being realistic, you guys are absolutely right. I'll take down the troll.
All right, we'll get to mailbag. Get your questions. We got about 9 minutes left, so we'll start Phil Ash mailbag. Will Rodrigo be on the team this year? Yeah, I mean, he will.
Yeah,
Special teams player. if there's an injury, he's a great depth piece, Lucas. You can appreciate a good depth piece.
He's making plays in the NFC Championship
Can
game.
he? Can he?
Mhm.
Lucas, can you?
Hey, he's proved it. Hey, that man out of Oklahoma State has proved more than Levi and Broderick will in their whole careers combined as a 7th-round pick.
All right. Can you appreciate some depth, Lucas? Is that okay? Can we have some depth?
I'll appreciate Malcolm all day, all the time.
Sometimes, Lucas, you love depth players to like you fall in love with like the most random.
It's the weirdest thing.
Dogs.
Some players
I can see the dogs and the puppies, and I can tell you right now, Levi and Broderick are on puppy watch.
Man said
I mean, it's easy. It's easy to say Rodrigo's a dog. Yeah, we know that. Those are obvious ones. I do love the both. I love them. Love them.
Ain't hard to see.
Oh, all right. Let's get to the
I did almost real quick. I'm sorry. I'm gonna move on to this real quick. I did almost hit Rodrigo's girlfriend with my car. Remember driving to Birmingham?
Yeah.
The rain coming down. It was a pregame. It was a Friday or Saturday doing a show and left. Yeah, and they had a team dinner somewhere. And I saw like some of them were walking across the street, and I saw there was just a car there, and it was pouring down rain, and some girl just walked up and about to be in front of my car. I had the right, like there was no crosswalk, just randomly in the middle of the street, and just stopped, and I just I'm like driving. You can imagine like me and like a deer in headlights, like, and it's just like Rodrigo standing there with his girlfriment, and I'm like, whoa,
he's about to
mid-season too.
Blocking the Booner path. She was blocking the Booner path.
Hey, shout out to fellas.
That's the last man you want to smoke with is Rodrigo.
Oh, dude, I would have gone out. I would have
he has no neck. Like he is, dude.
He would have flipped my car. He probably, if I hit him, he probably would have. My car would have had more damage. To be honest.
yeah. He is. He's kind of built like that. It's true. King Horse Mailbag. Booner sick. Did Lucas give him the Toledo herpes? I don't know.
No, not on purpose. Not there was nothing that was on purpose going down.
I've been sick for like a week here. I'm going through like these phases. I had like the flu, and now I have like a cold where my nose just keeps running. It's plugged. I don't know, dude.
Got that Magic Johnson.
Sucks, dude.
Jeff Olson Mailbag. Does this show talk about other Detroit teams besides the Lions?
It's not like we just had Chris Castellani on.
No,
Tigers for a while.
And I think Jeff. I think he's partially trolling. Not 100% sure. But
profile picture looks like he's trolling.
I love the profile picture, but let's be real here. Like, and I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you guys because we love you. I'm just gonna keep it very, very honest with you guys. We do talk other sports teams. I mean, we talk hockey. We've talked Red Wings. We've talked it a lot more now with especially what's been going on, and we'll talk a lot more about it this week. Just because they have big games. Of course, the Tigers, we're going to start talking more about. The Pistons don't really deserve much of it right now, but yes, we will. Now, here's the reality, though. See, I got to give you that before I give you the next thing, okay? We posted a Red Wings video, which I was very confident in, and I thought it was going to do very well. It stunk. Like, it got like, I think it has like 200 views in like 2 weeks. So, again, you got to look at it from our perspective. It's like we want to, but like
we're trying to grow something here, and
it's like we got to balance.
It is a business on our end.
We got to balance.
Strategic, it's tough.
Like that video bombed. So will we talk about them? Yes. Will we prioritize it? Probably not, if I'm being honest. But we will talk about it.
Especially when the Wings are in the playoffs, we're gonna have those conversations. It's just obvious when we do talk those things. Views drop off, things happen, and obviously we want to make everyone happy. But
let's see, second Musketeer
run.
Got to. And by the way, thank you. He commented the mock draft, so thank you for that, second Musketeer. But he says, why does Barnes start over Malcolm? Barnes is overrated. Draft linebacker thoughts.
I don't think Barnes is overrated. I'm going to be honest. He had a big, if you look at from last year to this year, look at the jump in numbers. He did have a really good year. I think, and I've been pretty vocal on this. If he would have made the tackle on Dak Prescott in the end zone, which I know that was a big play. If he didn't make that mistake, I don't think anyone's talking about an overrated Derek Barnes or a bad season from Derek Barnes. Like, he had a pretty solid year at the end of the day. Obviously, he wasn't like a Pro Bowl player, but he had a better year, I think, than Rodrigo did his rookie year. And I think as being a vet and kind of he's a bit of a leader on that team as well. I just think that Dak thing, and we could joke around about it all we want. Outside of that play, I think that play gave some people a vision and tried to use that as a joke. And he wasn't that bad. Go look at his number. He was like second on the team.
The big moment was missing Dak. I get that.
That was
okay. I get it, but you could bring. I mean, Gibbs fumbling in the NFC Championship game. You don't want to bring that up, or So
yeah, there's so many things that just
things happen. It is what it is.
He's a Detroit Ryan. He's a Dan Campbell guy. Works hard. He knows the defense. AG guy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just have those dudes.
Phil says, I'm sicker than heck, puking since 3 a.m., but I'm still here for the guys.
Oh,
man,
shout out Phil.
Phil's a soldier. We appreciate you, Phil. Hope you feel better, man. That's messed up since 3 a.m. Jesus.
I forgot too, fellas. I should have done this at the beginning of the show. I had a big time pick and bet on this national championship game, and I didn't give it out. It was probably one of my biggest bets of the year for college basketball. It wasn't like a big parlay or anything. It was just plus 100, and I just didn't give it out, and it's on track right now to hit. I feel kind of bad.
What'd you have, Boone?
It was UConn money line, Zach Edey 20 points, and Cam Spencer 10 points. It was simple. Plus 109, plus 112, something like that.
A lot of units on it.
Oh, biggest one of the year, by far. By far. So I did it. It was just like I wanted to win one. I do have a future on the UConn as well, plus 350. So I'm right. That ends tonight. I forgot about the national championship game with the fellas. My bad.
No, you're good. It's worth bringing up. We got 2 minutes here. We'll get to Alan's question. Alan W. Mailbag. If Houston and Davenport both stay healthy and rotate, how do we feel about their production? I honestly think they combine for at least 10 sacks.
See around there.
Key word he combined, which Alan's a very
Houston getting 9, Davenport getting 1.
He's a smart individual. Okay, now you see.
No, a troll. I think that's a good number.
9.5. Davenport gets a half.
In his half sack. That's what we used to say all the time with our previous employer, Davenport, in his half sack. But no, I think Houston. I think they can both get around 5 or 6. Maybe one of them gets over, under. But I think 11 or 10 to 12. Yeah, I think that's a good range.
All right, it's fair.
Fine depth pieces, just neither starting caliber.
Mm-hmm. Very honest there. All right, let's get to this question. That guy up north. He says, question from a non-member. By the way, we still appreciate you. Who do you think the Lions extend first, Goff or Amon-Ra St. Brown? I'll go Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Me too.
Give that man his money. He's due. They're finding him. What do you think? You going Goff or what? What are you doing?
I don't think it matters. I think they both get extended this offseason. So is that a fine answer? Is that an okay answer?
Chill.
You think it comes during training camp?
I think it could come all the way up until July. I think training camp. I guess August is training camp. Yeah, I think they're just taking their time. I don't think they're in a big rush. I would like it to get done soon though, because there's going to probably be other deals that get done this offseason, extensions and things, especially for the wide receivers. I would like Amon-Ra to get extended before Justin Jefferson, because Jefferson will be extended this offseason. I'm nervous that's going to. That's the issue.
I don't know if he's you might go look from a bag elsewhere.
I don't know if they offer him one though. It just makes me nervous that they offer him a crazy number and then Amon-Ra's number instantly. Boom. Maybe that's why he's waiting. It's because of that.
What'd you say, Lucas? What was your answer?
I would say Amon-Ra. I think to Booner's point, they both get done. But if you're asking me which one should, I think Amon-Ra. I think it's crazy to say in the NFL nowadays that a wide receiver is more important than a quarterback to this team. But overall, I think Amon-Ra is more important than Jared Goff right now, because you could say, oh, yeah, but Jared Goff has other weapons. But what if Jared Goff never had Amon-Ra? I think if Jared Goff doesn't have Amon-Ra, his game is completely exposed because he doesn't have that safety check down outside of Sam Laporta. So I think Amon-Ra get his deal done first.
Wisco 35 Mailbag. How disappointed would you be if the Lions do not draft a corner until round 5? I think this could be the Jalen Carter / defensive lineman scenario from last year. And Wisco, you are correct. That would be a similar scenario, and I would not be shocked because that's how Brad operates. Everything we think is going to happen, something else happens.
Yep.
Like, watch, Kool-Aid will get passed upon twice, and then they'll take a offensive lineman. Like, it's just how it goes. Like, something crazy is going to happen. How would you guys feel? I mean, I'd probably be a little disappointed, but at the end of the day, it's like I got to see it. I got to see who they drafted, and I think that would change my perspective, like it did last year.
That's fair, especially if they went really heavy on the defensive line.
Right.
I mean, we got to remember that by default, this cornerback room is already better than it was last year. If you upgrade the defensive line, you put that defense in the same situation last year, I think there's a different outcome. So I'm going to be all right with it. It's going to be really hard for me outside of a Nate Wiggins pick or Chop Robinson pick in the first round for me to not trust Brad Holmes for this draft.
Yeah, I think they probably too. I'm not going to sit here and be mad about it. I would just more so be hopefully they did something in free agency. Hopefully they still addressed it. That's all.
Gilmore, he's still out there floating around.
Yeah.
There's a lot of corner. If you actually look at it, there's a lot of corners out there. I think guys are going to wait until training camp, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. After the draft.
Vision Stealth, thank you for the $2. We appreciate you because there is no need to break the bank for both. Well, they think they. If you're referring to Goff and St. Brown, they are definitely going to probably break the bank. I don't know about for Goff. 49 is a lot though, but
St. Brown would get 30, 27, 28.
You got to think Vision Stealth too. When people talk about like discounts, unless you're a vet, you ain't taking no fucking discount. Yeah. I'm telling you right now. Like St. Brown
Amon-Ra doesn't deserve a discount either. That
no
man
way.
Get his money.
He's got to get his money.
Coming off a 4th-round rookie contract.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll close it off here, man. A great show. Shout out to Chris for joining. Had a lot of fun. Man. Mike Gentry, hope you feel better. Phil, we hope you feel better as well. Everyone else is sick. Booner's dealing with the sniffles. You know, hey Booner, our Persian with
the eclipse sickness.
Yeah, this is
gave him more radiation
with you, Boone. Detroit Lions too. Feel better.
Something going around, man, and it's hitting people. I've had it for about a week now.
Stay away from me.
Stay away.
The solar eclipse, bro.
Solar
Let's start with these conspiracies.
All right, we'll catch you tomorrow.
Love you guys.
Yeah, it'll be Tuesday. We'll have a special guest on. We'll have Gentry back. Preview the Red Wings game. For all those who ask about if we talk about other Detroit sports, we will talk about the Red Wings because they have 2 big games. Potentially, depending how this one tomorrow goes. Can't wait for it. Appreciate you guys, man. Had a lot of fun this weekend. Everyone that we came in contact with at Friday at the opening day. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll catch you tomorrow.